Our first item are the hearing minutes. At the request of the Public Improvement Commission staff, the acceptance of the minutes of the PIC hearing held on November 21st, 2019. Any questions or comments on the minutes? All right, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Make a motion.
To approve the hearing minutes of the November 21st, 2019 hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Moving on to the public hearing. Our first item is on a joint petition by the Boston Planning and Development Agency and the City of Boston Public Works Department for the adoption of a city policy concerning the review and implementation procedures and consideration of climate resilience throughout the city. This was new business on November 21st, 2019.
Good morning. Want us to do introductions?
That'd be great.
We have new people.
Hi, I'm Julie Eaton with Weston and Sampson.
Katie Cho, Chief Engineer for Public Works.
Allison Brizius, Director of Climate and Environmental Planning, Environment Department.
Joe Christo, Senior Resilience and Waterfront Planner, BPD8.
So we took the feedback from the commission that we got at the new business hearing and are working on the checklist associated with the climate resilience policy. We're also working on a one-page summary of the policy and sort of a flow chart and implementation plan associated with that so we can provide clear guidance to anyone who's coming to PIC who will need to comply with the policy. We do believe that we need another 2 weeks to finish this up. So we are asking for a continuance on this item until the hearing on December 19th, I believe.
One more, yeah. Nice. Any questions or comments in general or about the request for continuance? Todd or Robbie? Members of the public? All right. I'll entertain a motion to continue this until the 19th. And just as a reminder, on the 19th, the hearing is not in this room. It is upstairs at the VPDA in room 900.
I'll make a motion to continue the joint petition by the BPDA and the City of Boston Public Works Department for the adoption of a city policy concerning the review and implementation procedures and consideration of climate resilience throughout the city.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Thank you so much. Moving on to our next item on a joint petition by SNA P12 Property LLC and the Massachusetts Department of Transportation for the widening and relocation of existing right-of-way lines of Massachusetts Avenue, a public way in Boston proper, located on its westerly side between Boylston Street and Newbury Street. This was new business on November 21st, 2019, and this is shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Widening and Relocation Plan at Massachusetts Avenue, Boston proper, one sheet dated November 1st, 2019.
Abe Menzen, Samuels & Associates, joined with VHB, our engineers. Our co-petitioner, Mark Boyle and Anthony Christakis from Mass DOT. Just a very brief reminder, our project is Parcel 12, one of the air rights projects in the Back Bay, so we're bounded by, we are the air rights on the west side of Mass Ave. We view this site as a critical connector between Mass Ave, Boylston Street, Newbury Street, completing the loop along Newbury Street to Mass Ave and to Boylston Street is one of the primary goals of the project. Another major goal of the project is to restore the infrastructure in this area of the city, fix the scar that was created by the construction of the Mass Turnpike, reorient all of the infrastructure in this area to work primarily for bikes, pedestrians, buses, transit users, as well as cars. This is an overview of the existing conditions. The red outline is Parcel 12, Mass Ave, Boylston Street, and Newbury Street. We've been working with DOT and BTD for many years now, trying to figure out solutions to all of the challenges of the existing infrastructure along the west side of Mass Ave. We've got a highway ramp that ends that begins at the end of Newbury Street. Very dangerous condition, about a 75-foot wide curb cut. 2 pedestrian fatalities within the last few years have occurred out here. DOT has a proposal to build, reconfigure the highway ramp, which has been approved by FHWA. We will build that reconfiguration as part of our project. We're also creating much broader streetscapes along Boylston Street and Mass Ave, creating a T connection on the west side of Mass Ave that leads into the Heinz T station and bus accommodations along Mass Ave. This is a site plan showing the site. As I said, we pushed the building about 40 feet to the west to create an ample zone, and this has been the subject of many years of design reviews to create a zone for the number 1 bus line and bus accommodations along Mass Ave to provide a dedicated cycle track that's avoids the conflicts that currently occur between the bus station and bicyclists, creating an ample pedestrian zone as well. New T stair and elevator that connect down to an existing pedestrian tunnel underneath Mass Ave that will create connectivity into the Heinz Convention Center T station, wide sidewalks on Boylston Street as well, about a half an acre of plaza space at the end of at this location. About half of that is at grade, and then an elevated part above. This is a view of the plaza, so the bus station, the cycle track. This is Mass Ave, looking to the west. A beautiful plaza activated by ground floor retail on both sides, leading up to a park that looks to the west. View of the building from the west as you're coming into the city, the gateway to the city from the west. We've worked very hard with BPDEA and BCDC staff in the community on the design of these buildings. And then a view from Boylston Street looking towards the west. And then the view from the end of Newbury Street looking towards the project as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brian.
Before Brian, any questions, any general questions on the overview? No, all right. Nice. Sure.
Starting with the widening and relocation.
Yeah.
So this is for the widening and relocation on Massachusetts Avenue. As Abe had mentioned, a critical component of this project was introducing a raised cycle track on Mass Ave. As part of that, due to the Mass Ave bridge, the raised cycle track has to be to the west of the existing bridge. And further west from that will be a pedestrian zone that we're providing. As Abe mentioned, the buildings are sitting back about 40 feet from the right-of-way. So in that, this plan is to basically formalize the public cycle track, raised cycle track, and the pedestrian zone on Massachusetts Avenue.
Question for you. Could you go back a couple of your boards that showed the western side of the impacted area? I believe it may be 3 boards before. Not that one, the one that actually shows the rendering. Thank you, sir. Using the best means you can you help the commission understand which area is encompassed by the widened street now on that?
Yeah, it's kind of generally along this
Basically, the commission needs to understand what are the elements that are now in the expanded area.
Yeah.
Because this is a widened right-of-way. Is it just on the surface, or is it a full flat-out easement? Meaning, obviously, the city is not taking responsibility for the bridge structure that is going through there.
Correct.
So help us to understand the widened right-of-way, which is not just going to have sidewalks. It's going to have a lot of elements. What is encompassed within that widened right-of-way?
Correct. So it might be easier to see if this doesn't show the entirety of it. But so there will be the actual bus shelter will be within that area.
Is the bus shelter show over there?
This is not the most current version of it, but yes, generally speaking. So the bus shelter is going to happen between the existing bridge, and it'll be sitting on the new deck over the pipe. Also within this area, there will be street lights. It'll be Boston City standard. There will be bicycle racks, and there will be a planter here. There will also be a landscape planter here with a small wall. But outside of that, the rest of it that isn't either the bituminous surface that's the cycle track, or will be a concrete surface that's the pedestrian zone.
The operational maintenance of all those items will be by the
developer.
By the developer. So you are with the developer or the consultant? user, are you with the developer?
I'm with the
or-
developer, I'm with
Right.
Samuels.
So in your presentation, you said that there's a dangerous, and you use that word, a dangerous situation over here. Those are inflammatory words. I'm going to assume that things are managed in a way right now where whatever the danger which you are articulating is currently being managed by the city and the developer and the state?
Sorry, the existing conditions are less than
Challenging.
ideal, are challenging, and I know the city has changed the configuration out there since some of the accidents have occurred. This is a more permanent solution that DOT is proposing to reconfigure the highway ramp to reduce the curb cut from about what's now about 70 feet and reduce vehicular speeds coming through Mass Ave from about a 70-foot curb cut to about a 30-foot curb cut, and creating an extension of Newbury Street that feels like Newbury Street and doesn't feel like a highway ramp. So I think all of the transportation experts involved in the city, state, et cetera, have the goal of creating a slower sort of approach to the ramp that protects pedestrians and cyclists.
The assumption I'm making is all parties have taken steps or are in the process of taking steps to manage the situation so that it is as best as it can be from this point in time until you all build this thing. Is that correct?
That's correct. There'll
Thank
be
you,
a,
sir.
correct. Other questions or comments on the widening relocation? Todd Robbie?
Just to clarify the limits of the widened right-of-way, that will include limitless airspace above so that the city can install streetlights and traffic signals and whatever else we might need to
Just a
install.
surface
So
extension,
it's,
right?
yeah, it'll begin, the lower limit is the top of the bridge deck structure, and it will go up and be limitless going.
So what are the street light conduits or anything else thought that needs to go across that bridge? Do we have adequate space within that area? Because obviously when we are rebuilding an asset of this nature on a crossing of this location, whatever the utilities that needs to be supplemented, whether it is telecommunication utilities, because at the next bridge at Mass Ave, we put in additional ductworks. So hopefully there's enough space to carry that increment.
I think we could probably get streetlight or traffic signal conduit in these sidewalks, but I don't think we'd be able to go any deeper.
Stuff through there also. So, and all of that stuff thought needs to be within the city space. We are not going to build
Right.
into the bridge.
Yeah,
so
MassDOT
make sure
is
that
keeping
there's
control.
adequate space to facilitate some spare conduits to go through that area.
Other questions on the widening and relocation? All right, members of the public? All right, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I'll make a motion on the joint petition by SNA P12 Property LLC and the Massachusetts Department of Transportation for the widening and relocation of Mass Ave as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Moving on to our next item, on a joint petition by SNA P12 Property LLC and the Massachusetts Department of Transportation for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in Boston proper, consisting of curb realignment, sidewalk and roadway reconstruction, as well as new and relocated median islands, pedestrian ramps, specialty pavements, street lights, street furniture, street trees, planters, landscaping, traffic signal infrastructure, street light infrastructure, storm drain infrastructure, groundwater recharge infrastructure, hydrants, bike racks, bicycle infrastructure, and driveway curb cuts. The locations are Massachusetts Avenue from Boylston Street to a point north of Newbury Street, Boylston Street west of Mass Ave, and Newbury Street west of Mass Ave. This was new business on November 21st, 2019, and this is shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Specific Repair Plan, Newbury Street, Massachusetts Avenue, Boylston Street, Boston proper, 4 sheets dated November 1st, 2019.
Okay, I'm gonna start with Newbury Street and work around, so. As David mentioned earlier, the key component, one of the key components of this project is taking the currently unsafe and very wide intersection at Newbury Street and Mass Ave, which has about a 70-foot curb cut for both highway ramp traffic and people traveling west down Newbury Street converge at one point. The highway ramp is going to be relocated a couple hundred feet further west past intersection itself is going to be narrowed to about 30 feet wide. As part of our proposal, we are going to be upgrading the entire intersection of Newbury and Mass Ave, including new signals and new ramps and sidewalks immediately at the corners of the intersection. Particular to our project on the south side of Newbury Street, we will be constructing new concrete sidewalks. There will also be a small furnishing zone with 3 trees, and within that furnishing zone, there are going to be, we're hoping to put in some bicycle racks. And currently, based on coordination with Mass DOT, they've asked us to try to come up with some sort of a barrier or fence railing type thing to further discourage people from parking on the south side of Newbury Street. Because now Newbury Street, all of the existing parking that's there today, through our project frontage, will be removed. And this is where basically there's going to be two travel lanes there. The southernmost will be for people heading west onto the ramp. The northern one will be for people continuing west on Newbury Street. We will be installing through our project frontage all new or newer replaced vertical granite curb. And there will also along Newbury Street, up until the Vent building, there will be city standard street lights. Once we get west of the Vent building, it's really going to start having more of the ramp design. You'll start seeing more Mass DOT highway, but the portion basically from the Vent building to Mass Ave is going to appear to be like a typical Boston City street. One quick question.
Mr. Rush, I think in the new business hearing, we talked a little bit about the loading associated with the business on the north side of Newbury Street. Can you talk a little bit about how that would work in this configuration?
Right. So as part of the ramp reconfiguration, which I'll reiterate is a DOT project, there were surveys taken of that loading dock. We met with the owners of those buildings that are served by that loading dock. They're pretty infrequently used. I think we counted three backups into the loading dock, and maybe some curbside delivery happening, but probably not allowed. The deliveries tend to come earlier in the day. The peak traffic on the ramp is going to be in the afternoon going west. I think the loading dock is an existing condition that's really impossible to work around. It needs to be maintained, but we don't think none of the reviews have indicated that there's a problem with that occurring.
Need to understand what your building facade and entrance is going to look like in the southwest corner of that intersection. Point being that you are creating a place of excitement. Pedestrians will want to come to your area, and just trying to understand what might be the free flow pedestrian traffic that might be attracted walking southbound on Mass Ave on the western side of Mass Ave.
There's only entrances on Mass Ave, so there's nothing.
Okay, so there's no entrance or zip.
Correct. There's no entrances beyond the corner, and as Brian said, we're working with BTD and DOT to create some sort of
Pedestrian flow control system.
You should only be here for compressor and building houses.
So your average pedestrians are not going to sort of wander onto a limited access on-ramp situation.
They won't be able to. There'll be some sort of separation. We want it to look like a city street, but from a pedestrian perspective,
That desire line will be to go straight down and then make a right turn.
correct. Yeah,
Rather than
if you
wandering.
turn, you'll be really in a sort of a dead-end service zone.
Be sensitive to the building facade design so that it is not going to attract people to come to that area, at which point they are not going to go down the crosswalk straight, they will wander.
Yeah, I think the design of the separation elements will support
We
that.
discourage that movement. Thank you, sir.
Other questions on the Newbury Street side? Do you want to go to the Newbury and Mass Ave?
Yeah.
So this is the Mass Ave frontage. A lot of what is occurring in this plan, we sort of went over for the widening and relocation, but the main elements here, the introduction of the raised cycle track, the introduction of a new bus shelter to replace the existing shelter that's there. As Abe had mentioned, we are providing about 180-foot bus zone, and towards the end here, there's about 40 feet for pickup drop-off, and that is necessary to support the proposed uses along Mass Ave. We are not touching the Mass Ave bridge itself. All of the items that are elements that are on terra firma will be new city standard concrete sidewalk. There are, as I mentioned previously, there are bicycle racks, city standard lights, not directly related to the specific repairs, but this is where the new head house will be to the tunnel that goes to the Green Line. And then I'll get into the Boylston Street intersection when we get to Boylston.
My understanding, and Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, there's still some maybe final comments from BTD regarding the Mass and Newbury design, is that right? Or Todd, is that, okay.
Well, so I mean, I think that we're substantially there. I think that we had a recent ramp that went in at this intersection, so we're just making sure that it all conforms with what
Is, okay. Other questions or comments on the Mass Ave?
If the Boston Fire or Boston EMS had to respond to an emergency in the central area of the plaza, where do you envision they would locate the vehicles? Right on Mass Ave?
I think on Mass Ave, I mean, we've met with the fire department recently. I think that Mass Ave is the access zone for the vehicles.
On Mass Ave, in front of the bus stop.
In that zone, yeah. The bus stop is part of that frontage. I mean, there's frontage beyond the bus shelter as well.
But the essential point is you have had these plans reviewed by the Boston Fire Department and that they have approved these plans per the access needs. Is that a fair statement or is it still a point of conversation?
We've met with them. It has not been raised as an issue. We'll be submitting a building permit shortly, and they'll have to complete the review, and no issues have been raised.
Your building is of some height, right? Obviously.
Yeah, no, we've gone through fire command centers, all that kind of stuff. No issues were raised on the plans.
Actually, I do have another question. Do you have, how deep is the underground passageway?
So the underground passageway is an existing pedestrian tunnel that was discontinued about 20, 30 years ago.
Okay.
It's down about one flight of stairs. Not honestly, you may know what the exact depth of it is.
Okay.
But we're not actually digging it up. We're actually rehabbing what's there already.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, I was just going to mention that we did have some water services there, and we do have a water line there, but if you're just rehabbing it, then it shouldn't be an issue.
Right. Yeah, we won't be doing any work to the tunnel. It's, the tunnel itself isn't being moved or.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments on the Mass Ave side? Tyler, Robbie. You on with the Boston Street?
Moving on to Boylston Street. So on Boylston Street today, there's an existing parking lot that is there. It's between the tracks and Boylston Street itself. There is an existing curb cut for that parking lot. We will be discontinuing that curb cut, but we will be introducing another one. This will be for the parking garage and the loading. So that particular curb cut was located as far west as possible within our frontage to be as far away from the busy Mass Ave Boylston Street intersection as it could be. As part of this, we are doing modifications to Boylston Street itself. So we are introducing a raised cycle track. There would be a furnishing buffer zone between the raised cycle track and this will be basically a loading zone, pickup drop-off zone, sorry. There is an accessible portion of that loading zone that will be accessible. And that, along with that in the furnishing zone, there will be bicycle racks, there will be tree grates. We are proposing city standard lighting and north of the raised cycle track, we're providing an 8-foot wide city standard sidewalk. Prior to then, there is an additional between like 17 and 15 feet until you reach the building facade. But within the right of way itself, we are providing the 8-foot city standard sidewalk. Again, similar to before, when we were replacing or providing vertical curving. One thing to note, this side of the intersection, we had a lot of meetings with BTD staff and going over creating a protected intersection here on the northwest corner of Mass Ave and Boylston. And we're also extending a new sidewalk and creating not quite as fully protected as our side, but a partially protected bike lane on the south side of Boylston Street as well. And as Amy had mentioned earlier, we had originally proposed to, there's not currently a ADA ramp on this side of Mass Ave, but I guess DOT has gone in and done it. So, right, so that was part of our plan, but I guess it's not even now.
At the new business hearing, I think I may have suggested if you all are able to carry or sustain the vocabulary of the sidewalk so as not to just be at the end of your property, but to the next intersection. Have you had a chance to give that some thought? That's question one. Question two is, who is your adjacent property? Because you are going to be building a sizable building over there. And is that a vacant lot? Is there a building? I just don't remember.
Yeah, so there are two residential buildings
Right.
That are
Exactly.
abutters. One, the Hamilton Company's built a few years ago.
Yes.
And another building that's a condo building on the corner.
The party wall between that building and your construction site, how are you ensuring that the building is not going to come after us, or whoever issues the building code for vibrations, for everything that is holy and unholy about a project of your nature versus the entity that is living right next door?
So we have set the building back and have the adequate separation distances.
Yeah, but you're digging a little bit of a hole there.
Correct.
Right,
We've got
okay.
a very, very robust.
Substantial construction thing, and I'm just trying to find out what measures have you all had taken to ensure that the adjacent property is not going to make a situation for the city. Who issues the building permit for this? Is it us?
Say
No,
combined.
when I say us, meaning the city.
There's a state and a city
Right, okay, so
joint jurisdiction.
So if something gets unsettled, they are going to yell at both of us, the city and the state.
Yep.
So please give the commission some assurances that what we are approving here, your means and methods of construction, is not going to create an awkward situation for the abutters. So that's one part.
Yep.
And again, back to my previous question, any consideration of carrying that sidewalk vocabulary?
Okay, so the first question, Maria Gorska is here from Haley and Aldrich if we need to get into any geotechnical matters, but the bottom line is we have a slurry wall that we're building along that side of the site. It's the stiffest retaining wall system we've ever built. We've reviewed the foundation designs. I think and we'll have a robust construction management plan that's very typical of whenever we're building a building next to somebody else's property, all the typical mitigation that we would do. In terms of the sidewalk, we did look at that. It's a little bit challenging because those buildings don't have the same setbacks that we do. So we looked at, we can't really replicate the same pattern of, I think ultimately, my understanding is that we're making a contribution towards planning for this stretch of Boylston Street, which is being looked at, I think, by the city and some other neighborhood stakeholders of a potential widening of the other side of Boylston Street, and perhaps, maybe at that point, the abutters properties get looked at as well. So we're making a contribution towards the planning effort for the other sections of Boylston Street. Because of the geometry differences of our curb and their curb, it would be hard to bring the furnishing zones through and so forth. But
I wasn't asking for the full kit and caboodle here, because the city rebuilt that sidewalk with some trees, and we had a challenging time to keep those trees alive. So at a minimum, I think the sidewalks on that side cannot be a series of dead trees with open tree pits. Okay?
So
So
we're willing to
just
look
match the vocabulary, and I'm insisting on it, because your construction vehicles itself in that zone is going to damage to those sidewalks.
Okay. We're open to, we're open to working with the city on the trees.
So do something that is palatable,
Yeah.
so that at least when someone is walking along that side, it is not going to be such a disparity between the Cadillac which you're providing and something that is in a challenging situation simply because of maybe current conditions and how it's going to wear and tear due to your construction.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
And then I just had a general comment overall about the specific repairs. We did see that you resubmitted the site plan. Phil LaRocca is reviewing that site plan, but he did have several comments on the first submittal that haven't been, he hasn't reviewed yet, so I just wanted to,
Yeah, we've
make you
been
aware
in pretty
about
close
that.
contact with Phil on that, so.
Just want to make a contingent.
Oh, yes, perfect, yeah.
Okay. All right. Other questions or comments? Todd or Abby?
Thank you.
Thank you. Members of the public? All right, I'll entertain a motion on the specific repair plan pending final sign-off from Water and Sewer, and I think the final comment resolution with Boston Transportation Department.
Make a motion on a joint petition by SNA P12 Property LLC and the Massachusetts Department of Transportation for the making of specific repairs on Massachusetts Avenue, Boylston Street, and Newberry Street, as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Moving on to our next item on a joint petition by SNA P12 Property LLC and the Massachusetts Department of Transportation for the granting of an earth retention license for the installation of a temporary earth support system within the following public ways in Boston proper. Massachusetts Avenue on its westerly side, generally between Boylston Street and Newbury Street. Boylston Street on its northerly side, west of Mass Ave. Newbury Street on its southerly side, west of Mass Ave. This was new business on November 21st, 2019. And this is shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Earth Retention Plan, Air Rights Parcel 12, Boylston Street, Massachusetts Avenue, and Newbury Street, Boston. One sheet dated November 1st, 2019. Morning.
Good morning, Maria Morska, Haley and Aldrich, geotechnical engineer for the petitioner. I'm going to speak to their earth retention plan. It shows the request for earth retention on the three city streets surrounding the property, Boylston, Mass Ave, and Newbury Street. There are three sections showing the conditions at each location which vary, which I can just walk through briefly. Along Boylston Street, the permanent foundation wall and earth retention for construction of the below-grade garage is entirely within the property line, but we are requesting a secondary line of earth support beyond the property line in the sidewalk to enable some of the work that needs to be done for pre-trenching and the capping construction. We're requesting space for a temporary guide wall for construction of the stone wall at this location. There will be a crane pad, a temporary crane pad out in the sidewalk that we will need some earth retention to construct. And we are requesting soil anchors or tiebacks for lateral bracing below Boylston Street. Along Massachusetts Avenue, it's pretty simple soldier pile and lagging system to allow for construction of the foundations and the substructure. Similarly, along Newbury Street, there will also be a soldier pile and lagging system for construction of the foundations and substructure.
Again, my concern is the nice people that are hoping to go to sleep in that building, the homeowners that are living over there. And if you could just add one tiny sentence as to the extent of your outreach to those building owners and what do they know about your project, the time duration, mitigating noise. Obviously, the city has noise laws and all of that good stuff. And could you just help us to understand that supporting this amazing project is decided by all and appreciated by all parties, including those that are living right next door.
So we've had dozens and dozens of community meetings, tremendous opportunity to work with all the surrounding residents. We haven't had a very active group from those buildings for whatever reason of participating, but the whole neighborhood really came together around this project and supports it. We'll be a great responsible developer. We've built a lot of buildings next to other properties.
So if there should be any additional sensitivity that is needed for those immediate abutters who may or may not know how to reach you. We would request that you continue
Outreach to them, of course.
Provide
Yes.
that level of sensitivity.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Questions or comments on the earth retention license?
Just that this gets the appropriate construction management plan and then the appropriate coordination with the state about how this is all going to work when we start moving ramps.
A couple comments too. So for the Boylston Street side, show a 15-inch drain in the profile, so that's section AA. And I was just curious how you plan on addressing that 15-inch drain.
In terms of protecting it?
Yes.
Or- Right, so we do have a monitoring program in place
Okay.
for all of the utilities, streets, budding structures. The most impactful activity is really the installation of the tiebacks. So the means and methods of that installation includes casing the whole, the entire length, and pressure grouting when we're withdrawing the casing. And that has really proven to be a good methodology for mitigating any impacts to utilities or street settlement.
Okay.
So that's built into our contract documents and methods for doing all of this work.
Okay.
We also have a rigid criteria for deflection of the earth support systems, which will also be monitored as an early warning system so that we can make modifications if needed.
Okay. Then if you can please send that information to us as well, I appreciate it. And then I just had another comment on the Newberry Street side. So on our records, we show, you show two 12-inch drains, but we actually show a drain and a sewer in a common trench there, and I can send you that information just so you have that information.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
For your posts or analysis, is that?
Actually, yeah, we actually didn't discuss that, but we can, I don't know if that's something we can talk about like after the meeting.
No, I think you can.
Yeah,
If you want to.
yeah, we can do that as well.
Yes.
Can you TV the lines before and after construction?
Which one specifically?
Oh, actually, if you can TV the ones that we just discussed, the one for the Boylston Street side for 15-inch, and then the other two ones on the the Newberry Street side with the 12-inch drain and then the sewer. I can, and again, I can send you the maps to have that information updated.
Yeah, I can respond to part of that. So it was during the site plan review with Boston Water and Sewer, Phil LaRock had already asked that we TV the lines on Newberry Street, so we will be doing that already, and we'll add to it the one on Boylston Street.
Okay, great, thank you.
Maria, sorry, I have one question. So over the years, our anxieties have been lessened with your participation with various developers that have worked in Back Bay because of your professionalism. And help me to remember one thing. In Back Bay, because of all the fill material we have used, there has been concerns by the commission members in the past about the odorness that comes from digging. So could you please help this commission understand what that is and how the project is mitigating that?
Right.
As you have done with your prior clients that have worked in the Back Bay area.
So we anticipate that could potentially be an issue for the Boylston Street side where the below-grade parking is, and it has been an issue in the Fenway area in the past. So our plan is to do some odor mitigation by applying a foam to the surface of the organic soils when it's exposed, so that will suppress the odors during excavation and not release them to become, it's basically an annoyance to passers-by and others.
So basically your means and methods is consistent with your recommendations to this commission with prior clients that have been approved by this commission in years past for projects in the Back Bay area. So not we can say.
That seems to be very consistent practice, yes.
Other questions or comments on the earth retention license? Todd or Abby? Members of the public? All right, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
On the public hearing agenda item 4, I make a motion to approve a joint petition by SNA P12 Property LLC and the Massachusetts Department of Transportation for the granting of an earth retention license on Massachusetts Ave, Boylston Street, and Newbury Street as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So moved. Moving on to our next item on a joint petition by SNA P12 Property LLC and the Massachusetts Department of Transportation for the granting of a private utility license for the installation of new utility infrastructure within Newbury Street, Public Way, and Boston proper, located generally west of Massachusetts Avenue. This was new business on November 21st, 2019, and this is shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Utility License Plan, Newbury Street, Boston proper, one sheet dated November 1st, 2019.
So today there's an existing telecom fiber optic line that runs eastward down the westbound lanes of the Massachusetts Turnpike. At the existing ramp, it actually goes up the ramp and heads towards Massachusetts Avenue.
And goes from the main building, or like where do those assets go?
No, it actually, it's in between, today it exists in between the vent building and the main line. It's in that grassy area. So from there, there's several existing telecom structures that some of the fiber optic then goes to Mass Ave, and other actually then turns back down and heads down, well, it's underground, but heads down the slope and goes back into the Turnpike main line. So as part of our project, our building is going to be taking up that area, so we are relocating this fiber optic, this telecommunications line as part of that. So now carrying it from where the existing ramp is, it's going to actually go up a portion of the proposed ramp, and then when that proposed ramp turns back into Newbury Street, it'll be running in a portion of Newbury Street. It will then be running back into those existing structures I had mentioned earlier, so then then from that point on, it's spliced and goes out to Mass Ave, or then back down to the Turnpike mainland. So it's really just essentially we're shifting it.
I just got confused with the words private utility. The duct bank system is owned by the state, right? Currently.
I think it'll be owned by the utility providers themselves.
Yeah, this is really just moving the granted location that was in the existing ramp into the new street because the ramp is going away. And then there's a bunch of moving parts here because there's an aspect of this that is a city street with city utilities running underneath it, but it is also now a highway ramp. So it's about moving all of the utilities where they're going to be, getting them in the appropriate location with the appropriate grants of location, but also preserving the right amount of control for MassDOT to control the access and permitting to this area as the trailhead of their ramp.
Questions or comments on the private utility license?
Yeah, and then just the same comment that we have, we still have the site plan, review that we still need to have it completed, so.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. On water and sewers final.
Oh, yes, please, thank you.
Tyler, Robbie? Members of the public? All right, I'll entertain a motion on this item, again contingent on Boston Water and Sewer's final approval.
I'll make a motion on a joint petition by SNA P12 Property LLC and the Massachusetts Department of Transportation for the granting of a private utility license on Newbury Street as read into the record by the chair, contingent upon the final approval by the Boston Water and Sewer Commission.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So moved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Moving on to our next item, on a petition by P25 Phase 2 LLC for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in Roxbury, consisting of curb and sidewalk reconstruction, as well as new and relocated pedestrian ramps, specialty pavements, street lights, street trees, storm drain infrastructure, and driveway curb cuts. Locations are Gurney Street, southwest of Station Street, and Station Street, southeast of Gurney Street / Halleck Street. This was new business on November 21st, 2019, and this is shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Specific Repairs Plan, Gurney Street, Station Street, Public Way, Boston, 3 sheets, dated November 2019.
Thank you.
Put that one away.
New and improved. Thank you so much.
So good morning. My name is Ricardo Sanchez. I'm the Senior Project Manager with the Mission Hill Neighborhood Housing Services. Mission Hill NHS is a nonprofit community development corporation. I've been working in the Mission Hill neighborhood for 40 years, developing affordable housing and economic development projects. I'm going to be here today talking to you with regard to Parcel 25 Phase 2, which is a low-income housing tax credit project that will provide 36 units of 100% affordable rental housing for families. Also with me today are Nick Carter from Councilor Zacum's office, Isabel Torres from State Representative Nika Lugardo's office, Chelsea Christensen from Niche Engineering, Patricia Flaherty, my boss, our executive director, Joe Lieber from Klein Hornig, our attorney, Danielle Desilets from KCLA, who are our landscape architects, and last but definitely not least, Gary Walling, a neighbor of the development. Parcel 25 Phase 2 is part of a multi-phase development taking place on Parcel 25 in Roxbury Crossing, a section of the Mission Hill neighborhood. To give you a little bit of an orientation, the site, Parcel 25 Phase 2, Parcel 25 itself is bounded to the south by Tremont Street, to the west by Gurney Street, to the north by Station Street, and to the east by the MBTA Orange Line railroad tracks. It is also located directly across the street from the Orange Line MBTA Roxbury Crossing Station. We have been working on this project for a long time, having purchased what was once a vacant and blighted site from the MBTA in 2012 after a multi-year community planning process that involved hundreds of neighbors, other residents, businesses, institutions, and other stakeholders from the neighborhood in this process. The project itself is, as I mentioned, 46 units funded through low-income housing tax credits received from the state, as well as city funding and other state subsidy funding. 46 units include 13 one-bedroom units, 18 two-bedroom units, including 5 duplex units that front onto and open out onto Gurney Halleck Street. And also have 13 three-bedroom units as well. 12 of the units are fully accessible, including 8 that are fully accessible, 4 that are fully adaptable. We have in the building set-asides for 5 units for formerly homeless families, 3 units for CBH residents, which is sort of disabled residents that need enhanced accessibility features. And we have another 3 units that are set aside for disabled folks under the Section 811 program. The project is funded. We have city funding that was received some time ago, state funding that was received just this summer. We are looking to close, hopefully in the beginning of this coming year, and get into construction on a 16.5-month construction process immediately thereafter. Without any questions, I will have Chelsea speak to the specifics that were requested. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chelsea Christensen from Edge Engineering. We're here requesting approval for specific repairs today for Gurney Street and Station Street. The specific repairs for Gurney Street include mostly just the porous pavement strip at the back of the curb and resetting existing streetlights for construction phasing. We did have these trees in the plan originally, but they have since been removed to allow for a wider pedestrian access down the sidewalk. So it's a 5-foot concrete sidewalk with a 1.5-foot porous pavement strip. I understand there was some discussion about the pedestrian ramps too. We were reconstructing pedestrian ramps at the corner of Gurney and Station Street. We have reviewed this with the Commission for Persons with Disabilities, and they agree with the configurations. The improvements to Station Street are limited to the reconstruction of curb cuts. There'll be a new curb cut for the proposed garage, for the new garage. Really right when you turn onto Station Street, the garage entrance is here. We are currently just replacing with concrete sidewalk for now, as this is phase 3 construction is the next part of this, and so any streetscape improvements to Station Street will be addressed in phase 3.
So what's the height of the garage entrance? Or would the loading for tenants be done through that garage, or is that sort of side for commercial vehicles?
Right. It is a site for residential vehicles. We expect that the loading will actually take place on an additional temporary parking lot that we are going to be building as part of the development on a little bit further down on Station Street. And that's where folks would access.
Here is the temporary parking lot. And so, yeah, and the phase 2 building will go on the temporary parking lot.
You mentioned that these are housing for disabled people, but there seem to be stairs in front of them all?
Yes, thank you for the question. So the building actually has its main entrance there's a main entrance on the south side facing the MBTA station. That's accessed through this main entry here, and this lobby also extends out onto Gurney Street, so there's an additional access there. All of the units are, even though they, some of them have entries at Gurney Street or Green Gallic and on the plaza, they are all able to be accessed from inside the building, through the main entrance from inside the building, and where there are a couple of elevators as well.
I have the overall site plan here too, that you can see that this is really the pedestrian zone is in the middle of the building. This is all accessible from the back here. And this is phase 3, but this is currently the parking lot.
Chelsea, just to follow up on what Ms. Cordings asked you, if I'm in need of handicapped access, the vehicles which drop me off, so where is that vehicle going to drop me off? Because your front steps, I can't go up the front steps because I'm in a wheelchair.
Right.
So where is that the paratransit vehicle going to drop me?
So we do have a space here for pickup and drop off. Folks will be dropped off there. They'd be able to access the entry to the building through this side of the building.
So are we going to dedicate that spot as a ADA handicapped parking spot? Because that's the only way, if you're We love what you are programming this building. I mean, don't get me wrong, absolutely fantastic what you are doing. It's just that, you know, the main door
Absolutely.
has stairs, which is not consistent, seems to be inconsistent with the client which you are trying to serve.
Right.
So we just need to make sure that the person that is going to be occupying your wonderful building can have free access, including the paratransit vehicle, not having to find a parking spot.
Well, we are providing under the building parking for 29 total parking spaces in the garage. 23 are dedicated to the use of the residents exclusively. And of those 23, folks with disabilities would have priority over other folks living in the
But
building.
I'm income restricted and I have to, you know, use these paratransit vehicles. I don't want to assume that I have a car and can go underneath your garage.
Understood.
Okay?
Yes. Sir?
Yeah, if you can sign the spot that is closest to where you intend to have people enter, yeah, as an accessible pickup drop-off area, I'm sure that.
So that way the sidewalk also can be built so that if I'm getting off the vehicle, I can actually enter the area.
Right, well, so the sidewalk's probably okay, but you might require some modifications to your tree location so that a ramp can be deployed onto the sidewalk directly.
Sarah, can you get these folks to sort that thing out?
Certainly circle back with the development team to work on that.
You said that you will have a permeable strip?
We will. We're intending, that's just, you know, sort of for the purpose of being green, energy efficiency. So we believe it's a good feature to have, and we sort of prioritized. However, we prioritized the handicap accessibility over that. So we reduced that a little bit in order to take it into account, given the fact that several of the units in our building are dedicated to folks with disabilities. Right. At this point, we are not proposing to do anything different, I believe, than what is already existing. In our phase one process, Ms. Astor requested that we change this that had been a permeable pavers, that we take this and change it into a planting area. What we did was change it into a planting area to sort of dissuade folks a little bit from coming out and using that as a crosswalk. We anticipate that maybe in a future project, once this is fully built out, we may revisit the issue of that vehicle crosswalk, but at this point, we're not proposing to do that.
It's not just on Gurney Street, even on Tremont Street.
Can you put the half moon on the other side as well?
Here?
On that
Yeah.
side, because you got the T station on the opposite side. People are going to just walk across and get hit by the right turn, free-flowing right turn of
That's
Tremont to
also
Tremont.
all been constructed already as part of phase one.
Right, this was
Chelsea, how was it
constructed and
built?
there is a planting area here, so planters, so that it's not,
So much.
Right. We
so
do
we
have
did that as phase one.
So much.
Other questions on this, Mrs. Bradley?
Yeah, I just had a general comment. It's just an FYI. We're actually going to be doing work on Station Street from Halleck Street to Parker Street. And we don't anticipate it will affect your work, but it was just an FYI. And we expect the work to probably start, the contract is going to be bid next month, so the work will probably start sometime next year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You will be.
Oh, not myself, but yeah, BWSA, yeah.
Other questions, comments? Tyler,
All set.
members of the public? All right, I'll entertain a motion on this.
I'll make a mo.
Hold on. Sorry, I'll just say.
Chair, members of the board. Nick Carter with Councilor Zacum's office. We'd like to offer our strongest support of this project. Phase 1 was a huge success, and it's been a great impact in the neighborhood. We really support the work that these guys are doing. They've been hugely important and successful in the neighborhood, and we'd like to see that continued. Thank you.
My name is Isabel, and I'm here from State Rep Lugardo's office. Ooh, this moves. And I just want to piggyback off of what Nick said, and we agree with everything his office also stands for.
Hi, my name is Gary Walling. I'm a neighbor in Mission Hill. I'm also the president of the Community Alliance of Mission Hill. These projects have been transformative to our neighborhood, and Phase 1 has been terrific. We're looking forward to Phase 2 and Phase 3 so we can support it fully. Thank you.
Any other comments? All right. I'll entertain a motion on this item.
All right, I'll make a motion on a petition by P25 Phase 2 LLC for the making of specific repairs within Gurney Street and Station Street, as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to our next item on a set of joint petitions by Old Colony Phase 3, Phase 3 B4 Limited Partnership, Old Colony Phase 3 B9 Limited Partnership, Old Colony Phase 3 C Limited Partnership, and the Boston Housing Authority for the acceptance of pedestrian easements adjacent to the following public ways in South Boston. East 8th Street on its southwesterly side between Patterson Way and Mercer Street, East 9th Street on its both sides generally between Patterson Way and Mercer Street, Mercer Street on its northwesterly side between East 8th Street and Reverend Burke Street. This was new business on November 21st, 2019, and this is shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Pedestrian Easement Plan, East 8th Street, East 9th Street, Mercer Street, South Boston, 3 sheets dated October 29th, 2019. Welcome back.
Good morning, John Schmidt with Niche Engineering. Beside me is
Darcy Jameson with Beacon Communities and Dana Dilworth with Boston Housing Authority.
So you may recall we were here 2 weeks ago for new business, and this is part of the Old Colony Housing Redevelopment Program. This is Phase 3, Part 2. The work that we're presenting today falls within this block here. It's bounded by 8th Street, Mercer Street, Patterson, and Reverend Burke, right here. We are reconstructing the sidewalks within the project to comply with the design that was approved and constructed in the Phase 1 and Phase 2 of this project. The petitions that are before you today is for pedestrian easements, and we're requesting easements on the 3 streets of East 8th Street, East 9th Street, and Mercer Street to allow not only an accessible sidewalk that's minimally 5 feet wide, but also a series of tree pits and other public improvements. I can walk through the details of each sheet.
John, can you walk us through the 3?
So on East 8th Street, the easement is approximately a foot wide. It runs from Patterson's Way to Mercer Street. And again, this will allow for the installation of the construction of street trees and public sidewalks, 5 foot wide and public sidewalks. On East 9th Street, we are having similar easement that's approximately a foot wide. It runs from Patterson Way to Mercer Street. And on Mercer Street, we
John,
yes, sir.
give me a second. I just don't want to jump forward to work backwards. But normally our 40-foot roadways, we have 7-foot sidewalks, which are perfectly adequate for the pedestrian path of travel. Here, I believe you are introducing tree pits, which requires us to have a wider sidewalk, and thus you granting us an easement. So I just want to understand what is the width of the tree pit that requires, what is the net effect of a...
Absolutely.
Yeah, is it a 4-foot?
No, we have a 5.5 foot wide sidewalk and a 3 foot wide tree pit.
And so collectively is from building to curb? Is that?
It will be.
It will be 8 feet.
Yes.
Yeah, because the slivers are like, you go from 0.79 feet to 1.16.
Right.
Like
Right, and that means
basic
because the curb line isn't necessarily parallel to the property line. But we're providing an 8.5 foot wide sidewalk, 5.5 feet of continuous concrete and interspersed with tree pits.
quick thing on the East Ninth one, you're looking at maybe some adjustments on both sides, including a partial section of the western side of East Ninth.
Yes, on East Ninth, it runs down the center of development.
Yep.
And we don't have any rights to the Perkins School. So we have an easement completely on our side, and then the side that we control here. And we are installing street trees in those areas. For the Perkins School and for the bus drop-off, we are maintaining the existing concrete sidewalk.
Also, it's a bus drop-off. It may not be compatible to plant any trees over there because it will get big.
Correct. We don't want to interfere with school
Hundreds
operations.
of students will hang on the trees. I mean, they
Right, you have the bus door open in front of the tree and all that sort of thing. And then on Mercer Street, which is here, which abuts phase 4, which we hope to be back to in the next year or two. We have the pedestrian easement for the entire length of Mercer Street from Reverend Burke to East 8th Street. And again, this will allow the installation of street trees and a new concrete sidewalk, as well as a new city street light.
new city street lights.
So the ones that you're maintaining and protecting through these plans are the new light
They
standard?
were constructed in previous phases. Where we have no new lights, we are installing new lights.
So consistent, nice vocabulary for the whole neighborhood.
Yep, it'll
Exactly.
all blend together nicely.
Before we get to repairs, any other questions on the pet easements?
All set.
All right,
And
members
just
of the
to-
public? All right, I'll entertain a motion on the pedestrian easements.
On agenda item 7, I make a motion to approve a set of joint petitions by Old Colony Phase 3, B4, B9, C, limited partnerships for pedestrian easements on East 8th Street, East 9th Street, and Mercer Street, as more specifically read on the record by the chair.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Moving on to our next item on a set of joint petitions by Old Colony Phase 3 B4 Limited Partnership, Old Colony Phase 3 B9 Limited Partnership, Old Colony Phase 3C Limited Partnership, and the Boston Housing Authority for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in South Boston, consisting of curb and sidewalk reconstruction, as well as new and relocated pedestrian ramps, street lights, street trees, and driveway curb cuts. Locations are East 8th Street on its southwesterly side between Patterson Way and Mercer Street, East 9th Street on both sides between Patterson Way and Mercer Street, Reverend Richard A. Burke Street on its northeasterly side between Patterson Way and Mercer Street on its northwesterly side between East 8th Street and Reverend Burke Street, Patterson Way on its southeasterly side between East 8th Street and Reverend Burke Street. This was new business on November 21st, 2019, and this is shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department Engineering Division Specific Repairs Plan, Reverend Richard A. Burke Street, Patterson Way, East 9th Street, East 8th Street, Mercer Street, Boston, 6 sheets dated November 2019.
Good morning, John Schmidt with Niche Engineering, new petition, same players. So to speak to East 8th Street, from Mercer Street to Patterson Way, we're reconstructing the existing public sidewalk to provide a 5.5-foot wide concrete sidewalk, 2-foot wide tree pits, and new public street lighting, which is reflective of the street lighting that was constructed in the earlier phases. East 9th Street, we are reconstructing the sidewalk on both sides. We are installing new street trees and a 5.5-foot wide concrete sidewalk in the areas that we control. There is a small area that is controlled by the Perkins School, and we are reconstructing their sidewalks to be concrete in kind. Reverend Burke from Mercer Street to Patterson Way. We are reconstructing the sidewalk, again, to provide new street trees and, new street lighting. And we also, a significant part of that block is controlled by the Perkins School. So again, we'll construct a new concrete sidewalk for the duration there and allow the Perkins School to continue the bus operations without any
Just a quick question about the head ramp detail here. Which is, you have a sort of a curved
Right
head ramp? Yeah, literally the head ramp detail.
Big detail on the bottom.
Keep it.
Yes.
Yes. Curvy part.
Yeah, so it's showing the detectable warning panel as sort of as sort of bowed and curved, which, I mean, that.
It's just, artistic license when we drafted the drawing.
I defer to whatever standard you want to use.
It'll be correct.
Okay. Never call.
Details will conform to city standards.
There you go.
Street, from Reverend Burke to East Bay Street. New concrete sidewalk, new public street trees, new street lighting, 5.5-foot wide concrete sidewalk, 3-foot tree pits, 5-foot wide concrete sidewalk, 3-foot tree pits. And again, this entire development reflects the work that was done in the previous phases, phase 1, phase 2, and 3A. We have Boston Water and Sewer site plan approval. We got that on Monday. Thank you. The TAP has been approved through the BTD last year, and the CMP is being submitted today for BTD review.
And the maintenance agreement, Mr. Liming, is folded into the master maintenance agreement?
Which is for the HA, is that right?
Standard materials, so I don't know.
No, you got trees. You got trees. There's a maintenance. Let me, now you're making me nervous. Is there a maintenance agreement?
Yes.
There are trees. You gave an easement to plant trees, and who is looking after the trees?
Us.
Thank you. And the us is being codified in a maintenance agreement
Yes.
that encompasses everything.
And just to, as John said, the CMP is being submitted, and we have acknowledged, per Mr. Hesford's request at the hearing, that we are in close coordination with the 3A contractor and our contractor on B and C for the months that we will overlap with work. So we will be very cognizant of that, and I personally am at meetings and oversee everything, so we'll make sure that all happens.
And my client is also committed to coordinating the work closely with the Brooklyn School
Yes.
as to not interfere with their operations.
Right, which we've done over the years.
And again, for the record, you are building all these streets.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Anything
you.
else you want to cover on the specific repairs?
I think that's it.
All right. Questions on the specific repair plan?
General comment, just if we have, for the catch basins, if we have broken gutter mouths, they have to be replaced. And then, if there aren't any gutter mouths on the catch basins, we need them installed. Thank you.
Todd, Rob? Members of the public? Any motion on this item?
I'll make a motion on a set of joint petitions by Old Colony Phase 3B4 Limited Partnership, Old Colony Phase 3B9 Limited Partnership, Old Colony Phase 3C Limited Partnership, and the Boston Housing Authority for the making of specific repairs on East 8th Street, East 9th Street, Reverend Richard A. Burke Street, Mercer Street, Patterson Way, as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. We appreciate your ongoing support.
Of course.
Thank you. Happy holidays. See
Happy
you.
holidays.
Our next item is on a petition by Navem West Broadway LLC for the acceptance of pedestrian easement adjacent to Silver Street, a public way in South Boston, located on its northeasterly side at the rear of 457, 469A, West Broadway, generally northwest of Dorchester Street. This was new business on November 21st, 2019, and this is as shown on a plan entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Pedestrian Easement Plan, Silver Street, South Boston, one sheet dated November 14th, 2019.
Good morning to the commission, chairman, members of the commission. Thank you for having us today. I'm Jim Heffernan of Navem West Broadway, and our project is 457, 469A West Broadway, the former site of the Dollar Store and a number of underutilized buildings. As a reminder of the project, we are a 5-story, 44-unit residential upstairs, commercial downstairs on the first floor. 66 parking spaces. We are proposing an easement along Silver Street and improvements along Silver and West Broadway. We're contributing $20,000 towards the intersection nearby at West Broadway, East Broadway. We're also contributing $60,000 towards the community and also mitigating factors, the improvement of the retail cityscape, the streetscapes, as well as 6 IDP units.
Sure. Great.
Pedestrian easement goes across down Silver Street. The rear of the building, we're proposing a 6-foot sidewalk, and there's 3 feet for the property line to the edge of the sidewalk, and from the property line to the proposed building, we're asking for 3-foot pedestrian easement for access.
The programming, of the entrances, your main entrance is still going to be off West Broadway, sir?
That is correct.
Okay, so this is for primary users who are going to benefit from this pedestrian easement for loading, unloading, Uber rides, who?
So there is an entrance, there's an emergency egress, there's also a gym entrance in the rear of the building.
Got it, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Yep.
much. Thank you.
We're asking for this on the whole length of Silver Street, because it's essentially just a utility strip right now that just has our lights. This gets us close to
Slowly
compliance.
will work out.
That's correct.
Thank you.
It's 3 today, add 3, get 6. Got it. Other questions on the pedestrian easement? Todd or Robbie? All set. Members of the public? All right, I'll entertain a motion on the pedestrian easement.
I'll make a motion on a petition by Navem West Broadway LLC for the acceptance of a pedestrian easement adjacent to Silver Street, South Boston, as read into the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Moving on to our next item, on a petition by Navem West Broadway LLC for the making of specific repairs within the following public ways in South Boston, consisting of curb and sidewalk reconstruction, as well as new and relocated street trees, bike racks, and driveway curb cuts. Locations are West Broadway on its southwesterly side at address numbers 457-469A, generally northwest of Dorchester Street, and Silver Street on its northeasterly side, generally northwest of Dorchester Street. This was new business on November 21st, 2019, and this is shown on a set of plans entitled City of Boston Public Works Department, Engineering Division, Specific Repair Plan, 457 West Broadway, South Boston, 2 sheets dated November 14th, 2019.
So starting with the specific repairs on West Broadway, we're reconstructing the sidewalk up front of the building, and removing and resetting the curb. We are calling for retaining one existing street tree up there and proposing one additional street tree. And the pedestrian pathway from behind the street tree to the property line is 11 feet in this area. And one thing that got brought up in the new business hearing, the scoring pattern that is proposed on the plans matches the existing adjacent to the site. We also 5 bike racks are proposed. Moving to Silver Street, we have reconstruction of the sidewalk, proposing a 6-foot wide sidewalk with the pedestrian easement. We are modifying the existing curb cut in that area and retaining the existing street lighting in the rear of the building.
Questions or comments on the specific repair plan?
I believe Mr. Hesford remains concerned about the notion of us loading on Broadway where we have a notorious double parking problem. So I would figure out what will make this work through signage or loading time restrictions, or something.
We're proposing signage.
Yeah, I think it's probably gonna take more than signage to
Yep,
get
understood.
truck to the curb.
Your whole building is residential, or is that a commercial component?
Commercial on the first floor. That's correct.
So, will you be the building owner, sir, or will, okay, so that was TMI, too much information or questions. We would appreciate you encouraging the occupants to abide by some of the concerns the city has. It is always better when the owner or the tenant manages this delivery issue so that servicing the building doesn't become a headache for us.
Understood, and also as the lawyer in my partnership, I can ensure that the leases have all the appropriate enforcements.
Other questions or comments on the specific repair plan? Todd or Robbie? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Todd or Robbie?
All set.
Members of the public? All right, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
On agenda item 10, I make a motion to approve a petition by Navem West Broadway LLC for making of specific repairs on West Broadway and Silver Street as further read in the record by the chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved.
Thank you very much. Merry
you.
Christmas.
Moving on to our next item, new business. Our first item is Mount Hope Street, Canterbury Street, Payne Street, Mount Calvary Road, Harding Road, West Roxbury. Specific repairs on a petition by the City of Boston Transportation Department. This is the shortest list of streets that we've.
Okay, yeah. I guess I'll take this one then. I mean, you got, whatever. Well, I don't know, maybe you wanted to like hang out with Todd? There is a microphone there.
I don't, it's fast.
all public hearings will be.
I didn't realize that he was coming up anyway. He's just, it's the spare, just in case something happens. You know, this is where the ledge is, you never know. All right, good to go. Did you read all of the names of the streets?
I didn't. It's a shorter list than that.
All right, thanks for having us today. We're here with our Neighborhood Slow Streets program, plans for the Mount Hope Canterbury neighborhood in Roslindale. Neighborhood Slow Streets is our traffic calming program for the city of Boston that prioritizes neighborhoods in the city that have a higher population of youth, older adults, people with disabilities, as well as public assets like schools and parks, and places where we have a higher than average history of crashes on our local streets. The Neighborhood Slow Streets program aims to bring the regulatory speed limit down to 20 miles per hour, which is self-enforcing through traffic calming, built traffic calming measures, including speed humps, curb extensions, median islands, and other traffic calming tools. We have been working with the Mount Hope neighborhood for a little over 2 years now on refining the plan to meet their needs. We have done data collection and multiple meetings to confirm all of these improvements with the neighborhood. I am joined by John Monticelli, who's our senior engineer on the active transportation team in the transportation department, who reviewed the plans for us, as well as Connor Murphy from McMahon, who is the designer. So I'm going to hand it off to Connor to talk through the proposed design.
Awesome. All right, thank you. So to orient us a little bit more, so the Mount Hope neighborhood, we're looking at south of Forest Hills between Hyde Park Ave on the north and then the Mount Hope Cemetery on the south, between Mount Hope Street, Canterbury, and Payne going east and west, Harding and Headland, Mount Calvary, and all that. In the zone, it is bisected by American Legion through the middle, so there's a little bit of a bisection there as well. We are looking at putting about 24 speed humps throughout the entire neighborhood, down all the streets I just mentioned, Harding, Mount Hope, just north of American Legion itself, Canterbury Street throughout the whole length, Payne Street, Mount Calvary Road, and just in those locations themselves. The spacing is going to be about 200 to 250 feet between each of these successive speed humps. Through previous zones that we've worked with in the Slow Streets program, we had looked at going at as high as 300 or more for successive spacing, but found that the speed reduction did not occur to the point of the 20-mile-an-hour goal that Stephanie just laid out. So that's where the 200 to 250 foot spacing is coming from in our neighborhood as well. It's worth noting that these speed humps themselves are going to have a 1-foot gutter on either side, so that way the existing drainage right now will be able to continue along the roadways where they are, so there won't be any interruptions there. And then we have gone out and field checked all these specific speed hump locations themselves to make sure there are no problems with utilities, driveways, things of the like out there, so we're looking pretty good on that.
Can you walk us to the intersection?
Yeah, that's just going to go to next. So the first physical change we're looking at, myself here, page 5 that you guys are looking at there. The first one is the intersection of Canterbury, Mount Hope, and Mount Calvary Road. So again, just getting a little further south in between American Legion and the Mount Hope Cemetery. Mount Hope Street itself, north of the intersection, about 26 feet wide. Mount Calvary, south of the intersection, about 25 feet wide. Canterbury, west of the intersection, about 27 feet wide. East is about 20 feet wide, as well as Mount Hope, south of the intersection, about 20 feet wide. The geometry of all these kind of coming together creates a weird intersection shape. It resembles more of a bow tie than any kind of a normal intersection geometry there. The geometry itself as well, it kind of lends to a weird chaotic atmosphere going around here for bikes, pedestrians, and vehicles throughout the entire intersection, as well as speeding, depending on where you're going, whether it be Canterbury on its own, Mount Hope kind of allowing you to take a real tight curve, or real easy curve there, and then Mount Calvary coming in at an obtuse angle to kind of shoot yourself into the intersection as is. The pedestrian accommodations, there are ramps existing at the intersection of Mount Hope and Canterbury Street, although they are all uncompliant at this time. There's no striping to get anybody across through the intersection, and they don't necessarily line up very well as they are. There are no ramps at Mount Calvary and Canterbury Street as is. There are sidewalks coming down Canterbury Street on both sides, but it ends. There are no sidewalks on Mount Calvary Road coming up, and there are none as well on Canterbury heading east. Excuse me. On the proposition side for us, we're looking at two main curb extensions, one on the northwest corner of Mount Hope and Canterbury, and then one on the southeast corner of Mount Calvary and Canterbury there. What we're looking to do is basically create more of a formal shape for the intersections at these two locations. At Mount Calvary Road and Canterbury, looking at more of a formal T intersection to help align vehicles to stop at Mount Calvary to turn on Canterbury. And then at Mount Hope Street, creating more of a 90-degree 90-degree four-way crossing intersection. The alignment of these will help to slow vehicles down in the sense that we're going to have more of a formal place where you're going to stop, turn, and actually use these intersections rather than more of a free-flowing environment. The use of the curb extensions is also going to allow for some shorter pedestrian crossings, specifically at Mount Hope Street in Canterbury, where we can get kind of really tighten that up, get everybody across, as well as Mount Calvary adding in pedestrian ramps so we can have a continuous flow coming down Canterbury Street throughout the corridor there. We also, because of these changes, have to look at the drainage going on here. So we have worked with Boston Water and Sewer and Public Works outside of the submissions that we've actually made, and more so into some common resolution side of things, to arrive at the design we have right now, including a couple of drain inlets at the curb extension on Mount Calvary Road, a rebuilt catch basin along Canterbury Street, and then a new catch basin on Mount Hope Street. So these will be aiding in the continued drainage flow in this area to make sure that we're not interrupting that at all.
Is there a crosswalk that goes along the bottom of Mount Hope?
No, there's no current ramp that gets you across this street right here, or it gets you across Mount Hope on the south side. The existing geometry over there would be is very difficult in trying to get some compliant ramps in that area, so we ended up leaving that off, but still allowing a compliant path of travel around the whole intersection otherwise.
There's no sidewalks north of that intersection.
There are sidewalks on Mount Hope Street heading up towards American Legion. It's only east where there's no really curb or anything like that. And then Mount Calvary Road has some berm on the west side, but no formal sidewalks.
Mount Hope Street itself.
And there are sidewalks going down that I can point out.
Stephanie, there's a lot of cut-through traffic going through here. Or?
I don't know if it's a lot. There are people who choose to take this instead of American Legion, but because of the one-way nature of Payne at the top of the street and the Jersey barriers that are sort of closing the two-way portion of Canterbury at American Legion, we do get a little bit of wrong-way traffic on Payne, but that does help to reduce the numbers. We do get reports of drag racing, so folks going in an oval up American Legion and then down through the neighborhood.
Okay, so then moving on to the second of two alteration areas Stephanie was just kind of getting on to, is the intersection of Canterbury Street and Payne Street. So this is a little further north throughout the neighborhood. Same thing, we are to the north of American Legion, south is still the Mount Hope Cemetery. There's actually a driveway into the cemetery located right here, just south of where the proposed curb extension is. Payne Street, as Stephanie was saying, is one way coming westbound, coming in from Walkill Ave. There are no sidewalks or anything existing on Payne Street, nor are there on Canterbury as is. Canterbury itself is a two-way street coming down, although there is a natural dead end over here with the one-way at Payne, as well as the structures that Stephanie was just talking about, restricting access along Canterbury Street. So there's a guardrail that comes up around and right into a utility pole, and then after that there are a couple of concrete barriers that are preventing any traffic from flowing through over there. Due to the wide nature of the intersection and some misused signage and striping and whatnot that are out there on Payne Street, there is a little bit of wrong-way traffic heading up Canterbury and onto Payne. So what we are looking at doing is creating a curb extension here that will extend the 20-foot the 20-foot street width a little further into the intersection, formalizing the intersection, and allowing us to create an actual stop line and put in some correct signage out there to really formalize the area as a do not enter here, you're not going to be going through. There is enough room for users coming down Canterbury Street to turn around over here and head on back. And then drainage-wise, currently on the proposed curb extension, that curb line itself is draining outside of that, so there isn't the natural drainage of the roadway as it is. We're not affecting that at all, so that's staying as is.
Can you, and I kind of just covered this, Stephanie did as well, but, so the Jersey barriers are sort of the northern end of this, right?
Right,
Just
right
right
there, yeah.
off of Payne, yeah.
Did we
Those,
put these?
I'm not sure who put them there. The neighborhood wants them to stay. I believe it had something to do with a crime reduction, less about traffic.
Maybe now in the public hearing, is there something we can do that we want to consider formalizing something, or I don't know if there's, we can work through. But it's right now, it's we are making this through a pair of Jersey barriers and a utility pole rather than something more formal.
The-
Well, no, we can manage it. Okay.
And then the one other thing between now and the public hearing, if you, unless you haven't already done this, you can just have a quick conversation with the street lighting, just about do we want to do anything additional into this, into the bump out.
They've gotten all of the plans,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, we're good there.
On top of it, good. All right, other things you want to cover?
No, I think that's it.
Other questions or comments on this?
Oh, yes, I just had a general comment. If there are any changes to the plans, we'll just have to just look at them again. Yeah, we'll try to get back to you quick, so, thank you.
Todd, Robbie?
All set.
Members of the public? All right, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks on this one. We'll be in room 900, up on the 9th floor of the BRA boardroom for that one. Moving on to our next item, Harrison Avenue, Hudson Street, Oak Street, Bennett Street, Ash Street in Boston proper. Specific repairs on a petition by the City of Boston Transportation Department.
So these are our neighborhood slow streets plans for the Chinatown, for a portion of the Chinatown neighborhood in Boston proper, looking at the area bounded by Washington, Neeland, and the highway. Looking at a variety of measures to improve pedestrian safety, particularly visibility at intersections, improving driver yielding compliance to pedestrians in the street, and on Hudson Street, speed control, which is the only location we noted as needing speed control in the neighborhood. So I'm joined by Artie Bonney from HDR, who has been leading the design of these plans and can talk through each of the raised crosswalk locations as well as the speed humps.
This gentleman, sir. Have you all received any petitions to deal with this type of issues north of Neeland Street?
The community self-identifies the streets that they wanted us to work on, and they asked for this area. I think that there is interest from some people to look at the area north, but that wasn't part of the original scope that they asked us to look at.
Thanks. So, as Stephanie mentioned, we're looking at the Chinatown zone, which is south of Neeland Street. So at Neeland Street running east-west, Washington Street running north-south. And our locations are pretty much predominantly located in that zone. Hudson Street is receiving the speed humps. And those speed humps are 3 speed humps on Hudson Street. And they're along 2 blocks. And similar to what Connor Murphy just mentioned, those speed humps are between 2 to 250 feet spaced apart. There's 1 foot on either side of the speed hump to facilitate surface drainage. And the design of those and those locations have been field checked to verify that there are no interferences with driveways or existing utilities.
I just noticed something which didn't catch on Hudson Street, the very the first two speed humps coming off Neelan, they are about 4 seconds apart.
Yes, those are, so these two.
And the others are within your 8 to 10 seconds, which is the normal range which you are trying to do. So help me to understand why this baby is just 24 seconds of travel time, your desired travel time apart.
Yes. So the first speed hump is what we received feedback from the community that drivers are taking a right-hand turn off of Nealon Street fairly aggressively. And so that location of that first speed hump is to send a message to drivers that they're entering the special zone. Then right after we
4
were...
seconds later.
4 seconds later. 4 seconds later, then...
You want to reinforce that?
We want to reinforce that, especially for the pedestrian crossing across Hudson Street to Harvard. There's a residence that was newly constructed at that location, and there's considerable pedestrian activity that crosses. So we really wanted to reinforce that speed.
I know what you are doing, and I'll just, just a tiny comment, Stephanie, because you are trying to protect those residents that are crossing the crosswalk at Harvard. If I'm the driver who got a speed hump, again, I'm going to be a little bit, okay, and then I'm going to make up time, and then you're going to have the reverse effect that what you were hoping to do. So give some consideration as to the placement of it, because sometimes when we put these speed humps, we are trying to slow people down, but sometimes they try to make up the time, and I'm trying to say this thing gently, and the area where you are trying to make up the time, i.e. driving faster, is within that conflict zone which you are trying to save.
So for just a little bit more context to why we're doing speed humps here, we had originally looked at that intersection of Hudson and Harvard for a raised crosswalk or a raised intersection. There is a new park just south of the building, and that is a new crosswalk that was put in with that park on the southern side. But the tight geometry of the street and the narrowness of the sidewalks there, plus locations of hydrants, street lighting, and other utilities, made it really difficult to find a place to even put a single raised crosswalk, and raising the whole intersection would have disrupted all of those utilities as well. So we had to step back a little bit and reconsider, which is why we're proposing the speed humps where we have, instead of right at the crossing, which was the initial intent.
Are you on to the intersections?
Yes. So I'm going to be moving through the zone from the southwest all the way to the northeast. So our first intersection is the intersection of Ash Street and Oak Street and Maple Place. At this intersection, we are proposing, the existing width of Oak Street is 19 feet, and we're proposing a raised crosswalk between Maple Place and Ash Street. And that raised crosswalk will be 10 feet wide, and the sidewalk on either side will be reconstructed. We're also looking to modify the existing curb ramps across Ash Street and reconstruct those, and trying to limit the extent of the scope of work for this side of the project. To capture surface drainage that's heading down Oak Street, from west to east, we have 2 catch basins right at the base of the raised crossing.
So there are some ramps across Ash today. Those are apex ramps, so we're replacing them with directionals. There's also a unloved ramp on the south side, which is part of the reason why we're extending the reconstruction of the sidewalk further towards Washington, to get rid of that extra weird ramp that's no longer needed. I'll also add that because of the way that Chinatown has developed, the, southern side of Oak Street has a much narrower sidewalk than the northern side, so this will also help facilitate an easier route for people who need a bit more width, whether they're in a wheelchair with a stroller, et cetera. I see them several times a month just in the street.
Have you checked your survey information against the Public Works record plans? And if not, check it again to make sure that your survey information is consistent. Okay, so just a housekeeping part. Who is doing your survey work?
Our survey work's being conducted by Feldman Land Surveyors.
Right, they have access, so just close the loop.
Sure.
Okay?
Will do.
Like, I'll give you an example just for we don't have 29-foot roadways, we have 30-foot roadways. And sometimes survey people actually go and measure things and try and put on plans as a 29-foot. So either they don't know our streets, okay, so just check it.
I will, and I'll make sure that the specific repair plans reflect that.
Reflect the actual right-of-way plans rather than someone actually measuring things. Because during construction, guess what? We may not put it exactly where it needs to be.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Bennett and Harrison.
Sure. So moving to the west, to the east to Harrison Avenue, and then to the north, 2 blocks, is the intersection of Bennett and Harrison. Harrison Avenue is 32 feet curb to curb, as shown right now. And this existing roadway network between Bennett and Harrison, Bennett is 17 feet curb to curb, and Bennett Street acts as a limited access point. It almost acts like an alley in a way. Facilitates a dead-end connection at the end. So we are proposing a raised crosswalk on both Harrison Avenue to the north of the intersection and Bennett Street at the intersection of Harrison and Bennett to facilitate pedestrian connectivity. We're looking to reconstruct the crosswalks, the sidewalks on the west, east, and south quadrants for Bennett Street and Harrison Avenue. And part of that sidewalk reconstruction is to remove existing curb ramps that are being supplanted by the raised crosswalk. Drainage is a consideration with the raised crosswalks, and so we have 2 catch basins to the north of Harrison Avenue to collect surface flow. We have 1 catch basin to the west of the Bennett Street connection to collect surface flow. The roadway gutter slopes from the south to the north in this intersection, and that's why we only have 1 catch basin. There's also an existing localized low point creating ponding, and so we have a catch basin in this corner to rectify that situation.
For a little more context, while Bennett is not a through street for vehicles, it does connect to the Tufts building, which is actually a very popular route for pedestrians to move from Washington Street into the Chinatown neighborhood. On the west side of Harrison is another open space where, especially in the summer, a lot of people are out there eating lunch, and otherwise that's a fairly popular crosswalk.
Further to the point I made earlier about measurements, I think Bennett Street is a 30-foot roadway with 2 6-foot sidewalks and an 18-foot roadway. Okay, so just cross-check and make sure that the plans are consistent with the record plans.
Is there a reason this is 2 humps rather than a raised intersection?
The 2 raised crosswalks meet the goals of the project and allow for this project to be constructed in a quicker timeline than if we were to have a raised intersection. And so we are reconstructing Bennett Street with a raised crosswalk primarily because there's an areaway down here. And so we want to limit the impact to an areaway. Originally, we had looked at a pedestrian access ramp, but we wanted to minimize impacts during construction. So that's why we have 2 raised crosswalks.
The curbs on Bennett are also not our standard height. And there's a lot of ponding that happens right there, so this will help
kind
that
of
too.
thinking the whole intersection came up, then your weird localized catch basin goes away because it's raised.
It would be removed.
Well, there are some other structures on the intersection. I don't know if they're all shown there that
We
were.
have a
trying to avoid. And then there's also obviously parking impacts, and the back side of these Tufts buildings have pickup drop-off for patients that were really important to the Tufts Hospital community. So we're trying to do our best to balance parking impacts with the safety improvements that we're proposing.
And also that second raised crosswalk across Bennett reinforces the limited access of Bennett Street, whereas if it was a raised intersection, additional treatments would need to be provided to indicate the use of Bennett Street.
Harvard and Harrison?
Sure. Moving further north, one more block. We're at the intersection of Harvard and Harrison. Of notice that even though Harvard Street continues through this intersection, in this four-leg intersection, Harvard Street West is a private way, and Harvard Street East is a public way. Harvard Street West acts mostly as a driveway and alleyway. It facilitates some ambulance connectivity for Tufts Medical Center for ambulance storage. So in this general vicinity, Harrison Avenue is currently being shown on this plan as 32 feet wide, and Harvard Avenue is shown as 14 and a half, and we will modify that.
Check the numbers.
We are looking to install a raised crosswalk across Harrison Avenue on the north side of the intersection. That raised crosswalk is situated such that it aligns with the entrance to the Tufts Medical School building. So it really facilitates that connection very well. We're looking to reconstruct the sidewalk on either side and reconstruct the curb ramp on the northeast corner. Our goal is to provide for pedestrian conspicuity and to elevate pedestrians out of the roadway with the raised crosswalk. And to do that, we have two catch basins to collect storm drainage coming down Harrison Avenue and then connecting into an existing Boss Water Sewer trunk line.
Sir, are you with HDR or Kittleson?
I'm with HDR.
And you will be the one who is?
I'm the professional engineer of record.
And you're all okay with all that is being, you're okay with all that is being presented to the commission? Yes?
I do.
That was a
I
stupid
approve.
question for me to
Yes.
ask. No, you are not okay.
I'd be in a big pickle if not.
Okay. Your program does amazing transformative work in our neighborhoods, and thank you so much for what you all are doing.
Any other things you want to cover?
Pardon?
Are there other things you want to cover?
No, I believe we've covered it all, and I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Other questions or comments on this neighborhood Slow Street?
Yeah, just a general comment, we do OE comments from this project. And also, I just want to let you know, on Harvard Street near the Harrison Ave intersection, we are doing work, water main replacement work, but we don't have a schedule yet. Project's probably going to go out to bid soon. So I just wanted to give you an FYI, but we don't anticipate at this time that it will impact your work.
Okay, great.
I do know that there are a couple of outstanding comments from Public Works Engineering. We'll fix those for public hearing.
Thank you. Tyler, Robbie?
All set.
Members of the public?
Sorry.
Good to see you, Rebecca.
My name is Rebecca Lee. I'm coming before you with two hats. My first hat is I'm a resident of Chinatown, and I want to say thank you to the city for choosing Chinatown for the Slow Streets Initiative, for engaging the neighborhood in a real dialogue. This does represent differences from what was originally presented, and we're delighted that it's getting permitted, and I assume that it's being programmed for 2020 construction, so we're delighted, and thank you on behalf of all my neighbors, especially those who are elderly and those who use baby carriages for their kids. I'm wearing a second hat, and I represent a nonprofit organization that is building a fully affordable housing development at the corner of Harrison and Hudson. 288 Hudson, it's currently a parking lot for Tai Tung Village, and the existing curb cut on Harrison Avenue will be closed, and then the existing curb cut on Hudson will be reused for the parking that's for that building. 6 stories, 85 units. In the scoping session on Tuesday, a BTD planner asked the developer, who's a nonprofit, building 85 units of affordable housing, to put a raised crossing at Harrison and Hudson. And we were a little confused because that's a fully signalized intersection. And we weren't really sure what that was designed to accomplish, because we also don't want to encourage people, particularly those who are disabled, to go in that direction, because the other side of the intersection is a very steep MassDOT ramp, which is beyond the ken of any of us to fix. So if the city wants a raised crosswalk there, we're not going to dispute
That's
that.
what we're saying. So why don't you
take this
connect with
offline.
me, and we'll figure out the genesis of that
Yeah,
comment.
because it should be on these plans, if any
Yep, no,
plans.
I think that it's new to all of us, so.
Okay, thanks.
And I misspoke. I was the, if someone needs to be blamed, blame me.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
I was like, when did Cara join the policy and planning team?
That was done in
We don't have any more
Keep track, you
desks.
guys.
Good, I don't know, like floating, I don't know. All right, good.
All right, we'll see you on the
2 weeks.
19th, 2 floors up, in that room 900. Our next item is 660 Beacon Street, ComAv, Boston Proper, specific repairs on a petition by RREF 2, Kenmore Lesser 3 LLC.
Morning.
See you.
Thanks for having us. Alex Provost with Related Beal. We are here to talk today about the streetscape improvements that we have planned in front of our new development on the north side of Kenmore Square. The last time we were here was back in July to talk through specific repair, supportive earth retention, and a projection license of the Commonwealth building, which was at the corner of Commonwealth and Deerfield. They're about 130,000 square foot commercial office building on the corner. We are back today to talk about really the extension of that specific repair plan to the east, up Beacon Street, in front of our buildings at 648 through 660 Beacon. The reason for kind of the comeback here is we had some ongoing coordination with the MBTA, who had some questions relative to their north side head house that accesses the below-grade Kenmore subway station. And we have diligently worked with them over the last several months to figure out a solution where they would be able to come back to the head house in the future to create a ADA compliant accessible head house with an elevator. So I'll let Mark and Kyle jump into the specifics of our design, but again, it really is the extension of what has been approved on Commonwealth, including a cycle track, accessible sidewalk down Beacon, to really expand that sidewalk and create a much more pedestrian-friendly ground floor experience on Beacon Street.
Kyle Zick from Kyle Zick Landscape Architecture. To orient you, Beacon Street is on the bottom of the plan, and the proposed building is here. The streetscape is basically a widening and improvement of the streetscape. On this plan, the existing curb line is this dashed yellow line. It's about a 12-foot wide sidewalk now, and that's expanding to either 25 or 17 feet at its narrowest. So basically, the sidewalk and the curb moves out to take over the parallel parking in the bike lane, but the bike lane is then made into a raised cycle track as part of the sidewalk, and that parallel parking is only in a 15-minute loading zone or a drop-off space there. The sidewalk itself has the 8-foot wide concrete path of travel up against the building. There's also a furnishing zone and a buffer zone straddling either side of that cycle track. The furnishing zone and the buffer zone are pervious pavers, clay bricks, and then I already mentioned we have the concrete pavers there, other concrete sidewalk. We have pavers at each entry on private property. Alex mentioned the MBTA head house, which is here. We've also coordinated tree removal hearing with Boston Parks. There's 7 street trees in this area. We've gotten that approval. We've also met with street lighting. There's 4 existing light fixtures and 5 existing light fixtures in this area, and we're replacing them with 4 with a fixture that they've recommended, which is a pendant fixture that has a pedestrian scale fixture on the back side of the same pole. The street furnishings are city standard bike rack, and we have a few benches. Otherwise, there's so much traffic in this area in terms of pedestrian traffic, we've tried to keep it fairly streamlined.
And Kyle, the current head house is there. You're simply expanding what could be used to be able to provide an elevator in the future. Is that right?
But yeah, basically we've worked with the MBTA to define really a zone that makes sense for this ADA accessible cab for an elevator. So you know, the tunnel, it likely is not moving below grade. So it will either be to the east or the west of what that existing stair comes up as.
A few days ago, 10, 15 years ago, we had a similar situation for the need for a head house, not on this side, but the opposite side. Okay, and the conversations with the developer was, hey, integrate the head house as part of your building. Has such a conversation taken place with you folks?
It has. So there's a 48-inch water main that runs between the building foundation and the head house tunnel currently. That is the main source of Boston's water. And so there's a lot of utility lines that run through there. Second of all, the head house is actually in front of 648 Beacon, which is not part of the new project. So given the existing foundation, the existing building there was no way to extend that tunnel through those utilities and access to it.
No way means, okay,
Well,
can't do. Next question, guys, you are creating a zone for people to pull in. Today, if I'm driving on Com Ave, do we have any stopping zones in that area?
No, it's
today, right? Do we have parking even, Kenny? I don't think so. I don't know.
It's currently all parallel parking along Beacon Street.
Along that area?
Yes.
That'll be gone, right?
That will all be gone.
Beacon, my bad.
Yes,
I thought-
Beacon. It really
Sorry,
turns
sorry.
into Com right there at that alleyway. So.
My bad.
Speaking of the alleyway, I know we talked about this when we talked about the Commonwealth Hub. Can you remind me why we have an alleyway here?
Yes. So really, these 5 existing buildings today, 648 through 660, are bound by 2 private passageways, both of which there are rights of others within access on the back side of Bay State.
And so you can't do it off of Deerfield, but that's what we're conversation.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Other questions? Please.
How much construction easements will you be needing from the city to do this work? Construction on easements. How much of our public sidewalks are going to be impacted by this work?
So we do have an approved CMP plan from Ed, and we will be taking the existing parallel parking lane as well as 1 lane of traffic in front of Beacon Street, which aligns with the extension of Beacon Street from Charlesgate through to the intersection at Com, Brookline, and Beacon.
Summarize, for your project, you will be occupying space that belongs to the city?
Correct.
Do we charge you for that space?
Yes.
We do.
Yes.
There's a method to the madness, but I don't think it is the same rate which we charge you versus if I was stepping foot on your property. That's just between you and I.
Other questions or comments on this? Or other things that, Mark, you want to cover? Or Kyle, you
Well,
want
I
to cover?
mean, I just wanted to say that the design as we have it is really a long design process with BTD and Public Works to get to where we are. We have site plan approval has been complete for the whole project. We still need to work with disabilities. Disabilities has asked us to look at accessibility to this drop-off area and whether or not we need a curb reveal there or we can do a flush condition to satisfy what they're concerned about. We're going to meet with them offline between new business and our public hearing and work that out. There's also questions about the existing pavers that are over here. When Kenmore Station was redone a number of years ago, which also seems like, last year, they redid all these crosswalks and they used pavers because they look beautiful when they're new.
and I'm going to come talk to Todd and see if we can find the license that may have placed those and make sure we understand who's responsible for what and figure out a solution.
MBTA project.
No,
This is an MBTA project.
MBTA?
Yeah. It butted up to ComEd, which is where we use begins.
So that's part of our homework for the intervening time.
This came up at the Commonwealth building as well, those crosswalks. We had some other things to deal with the MBTA to really get to where we are today, but that's obviously going to be continued coordination and obviously with kind of the licensing with the MBTA, we'll be working with them throughout the duration of construction. So.
Well, this excitement, I lost sight of one small point. Are you bringing down the building and building something new?
Yeah. So just backing up a bit,
I'll
bring up the plan. So the 130,000 square foot building on the corner there is all new construction. We have actually started slurry wall mobilization, yes, as of a couple weeks ago. And then the building behind the streetscape that we're talking about today is what we're calling the Beacon Building. We are actually proposing to demolish buildings 6, 7, and 8 there, which is 650, 652, and 656 Beacon Street. But we are keeping in
the Citgo sign.
The old Barnes & Noble BU bookstore will be staying. The sign will be maintained during construction. We're building the new structure in the place of those 3 inline buildings and actually aligning the floor plates to create one kind of consolidated building. So it'll be a brand new building with all new systems, and they'll share all of the same infrastructure, but it will really look like 2 unique buildings from the street.
Maybe the conversations we had with the dual left turns and all just a day or two before. So how are all these projects being coordinated so that we don't have a cluster charming situation at Kenmore Square?
This is the existing condition for the Kenmore Square. So they have these plans, and this will be the jumping off point for
everything else.
Right.
Awesome project.
Other questions or comments? Over here, Todd.
All set.
Members of the public. All right. See you guys in 2 weeks upstairs from 900.
All right.
Our next item is 40 Guest Street, Brighton, vertical discontinuance, projection license on a petition by Courtside Realty LLC.
Hi. Afternoon. Devin Howell from Beals Associates, representing the petitioner, Courtside Realty LLC. Just to give everyone an idea of where we're requesting discontinuance. This is the Mass Turnpike. We have Guest Street right here, and 40 Guest Street is right here, which is the Sawbase Practice Facility. What we are requesting is a discontinuance for a canopy that extends 1.3 feet over the property line. The discontinued area is 2.5 feet.
Normally, canopies we do licenses, so am I misunderstanding it?
This
or
discontinuance is more like a cornice. It's a permanent building element.
Gotcha.
There are
so
also canopies that are being presented as a projection
So
license.
it's like a physical thing, which is part of the building structure.
Yeah, we have both here.
So it makes sense.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So that would extend 1.3 feet over the right-of-way and would be 182 feet long along the Guest Street facade.
And how does drainage work or
Then heat traced and internally drained?
Right now, I'm not sure what the exact plan is on that.
Find that information.
Yeah.
And put the note on the plan?
Yep.
Yep.
Recently, once we discontinue, you sort of have certain rights to put there that gets managed by our inspection services department. We just want to make sure that the new product in the discontinued space doesn't create any icicles that can be.
Yeah, of course. I'll make sure that's added to the
And then can you walk us through the projection license as well?
Yes. So the projection license is along the same footprint as the discontinuance. The projection license would extend 4.5 feet from beyond the right-of-way and would be 10 feet above the sidewalk to 30 feet above the sidewalk.
And if you could flip the page so you can tell us what is proposed in the protection license. Lots of signs, right? Todd, do any of this stuff which is showing conflict with outdoor advertising or?
It will all need to go through BPDA design review to ensure that it's
Because I think we are now stretching that envelope of what a.
Yeah, my understanding, it's all going to be it's all retail signage for the tenants of this building as opposed to advertisement for.
As long as upstairs is cool with opposite.
That was a comment from the BPDA. And we submitted just some typical signs you could expect along the building. And they all range in footprint, and that's why we're requesting that box.
This is a huge range, both in height and size, and has flexibility over time. Other questions on either the vertical discontinuance or the projection license for this property? Bobby or Todd?
No, I will mention that the proponent within the past few years laid out a widening of this street, and these projections are located above that widened right-of-way.
Members of the public? All right, now this one we'll see you in 2 weeks upstairs in room 900. All right, our next item is 40 Guest Street, Brighton, vertical discontinuance, projection license on a petition by Courtside Realty LLC. Can you walk us? Oh, I'm sorry. 125 Guest Street, my apologies.
Rail yard residential.
Thank you. Let me read that again. This item is 125 Guest Street, Brighton, vertical discontinuance, projection license on a petition by Rail Yard Residential LLC. Thank you.
So once again, representing Residential Rail Yard LLC. So once again, just the Mass Turnpike, we have Guest Street, and the residences building is right here in pink. And we're requesting 2 discontinuances for canopies along the Guest Street facade. Those discontinuances, the first one extends 5 feet into Guest Street and is 14 feet long. And that first discontinuance is about here. And the second discontinuance is like 190 feet further down Guest Street. And that extends approximately 3.5 feet into Guest Street and is 23 feet down.
Same comment as before. If you can just confirm their heat trace internally drained for the public hearing and put it on the plans.
So again, same thing, discontinuances, tiny areas for physical structures that are part of the building, but then the stuff that is more of a license.
Yeah, same idea as the previous action.
And just for the record, can you just walk us through just the envelope for the projection license on this side? Can you walk us through the envelope for the projection license, the size of the projection license for 125 Guest Street?
So the projection license is along Guest Street. It's 340 feet long and extends 2.5 feet into Guest Street right of way. Once again, we're requesting the projection license 10 feet above the sidewalk to 30 feet above the sidewalk. And that just allows us that box once again for variation in the shapes of the signs.
Great. Questions or comments on this? Todd or Avi?
Same comment regarding the previous widening of Guest Street.
Members of the public? All right, see you in 2 weeks upstairs in room 900.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is 287 Old Colony Avenue, Jenkins Street, South Boston, pedestrian easement specific repairs on a set of petitions by 287 Old Colony LLC.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Anthony, I'm with Sun Property Group. I'm also part of the ownership entity at 287 Old Colony LLC. This is a 6-unit residential with 5 residential, 1 commercial space, new construction project that we permitted almost 2 years ago now. And we never properly permitted the curb cut. So our building is nearly complete at this point, and we're here before you trying to get permission for our curb cut for our garage parking spaces. The specific repair plan kind of lays out the dimensions and location of the proposed curb cut. After working with Todd Lyman, city engineer, he recommended that we use this particular style curb cut in our existing sidewalk dimensions. So this is the flared granite curbing down to a flattened area, which is the main portion of the curb cut. The curb cut itself is just over 40 feet wide, so it's a little unusual, but this side of the street has no street parking, so there's no packed-in loss of vehicles. This is a project that obviously went through the zoning variance process, so we worked with the neighborhood group, and they were satisfied with this particular parking curb cut arrangement. Yes, go ahead.
Thought. So this is one gigantic curb cut just to let series of cars go into the bottom part of the structure.
Yep. Yeah, site constraints, this is kind of the only way to get the required number of parking spaces on site. They originally had proposed multiple narrower curb cuts, but because of a number of things, it has to be one wide.
And then the sidewalk, if I'm walking along the sidewalk, does it stay at the same grade chord, or does it dip in, or how the heck
No,
is
because
that?
of the narrow sidewalk, it's the grade will have to dip down to roadway level and then across and then come back up. And that's our standard for sidewalks less than 7 feet wide.
Yes. Assuming that on Jenkins Street, there are only 2 people that are going up and down the street.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, again, just kind of walking through the plans, I did show the parking space, we did show the parking spaces inside the building, so you can see exactly where those parking are coming to. So we drive right into the building there, right at the edge of the building, and that's pretty much it. We, as part of this, we're obviously going to redo the handicap ramp here. I'm going to add one on the opposite side of the street, which they didn't have one there, so that's a benefit in addition to what's already there. Our building's set back from the right of way a little bit, so the sidewalks will actually get a little bit wider, and Todd asked that we produce a pedestrian easement, so we're here before you as well for pedestrian easement, so you'll gain a little bit of width with that. So that's pretty much it.
Questions on either the pet easement or the specific cars?
Yeah, I just had a couple small comments. Our records indicate we have a hydrant at Old Colony Avenue. So if If you can show that on the plans.
Oh, yes. Sir.
Yeah, thank you. And then also, there's a catch basin there at the intersection as well, and if there's a,
Yeah, I think that's on the plan right there.
right, yeah, thank you. And then if there's a gutter mouth, if it's broken on the catch basin, it needs to be replaced, and if there isn't one already there, there needs to be one installed.
That's in granite curb and pist.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. I can send you those details. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Tom Robert,
All set.
members of the public. All right, we'll see you in 2 weeks, Room 900.
Next item is 53-55 Northern Avenue, 55-57 Boston Wharf Road, 84 East Service Road, South Boston, specific repairs on a set of petitions by Seaport Square Development Company, LLC.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Jody Sanchez. I am here from Goulston Stores on behalf of Seaport Square Development Company, the petitioner and the master plan developer of the Seaport Square project. We've been before the Commission on several specific repairs, and today we are requesting approval for specific repairs to Northern Avenue, Boston Wharf Road, and East Service Road, specifically for parklets, each occupying 2 parking spaces. I am joined here today with Amy Prange from WS Development and Kyle Zick from Kyle Zick Architecture, as well as Rob Barella from KZLA. And I'll now turn it over to Amy to explain a little bit more about the project.
Good morning, Amy Prange. I just want to mention our original goal was to drive more pedestrian traffic to Northern Ave. We learned of the Parklet program and we were referred to Kyle and his team, and we were excited about it. So we also found other locations, one on Boston Wharf Road and one on East Service Road, where there isn't too much dimension in the sidewalk for public seating. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the maintenance of the parklets or ongoing anything really, but I'll turn it over to Kyle just to show you what we're planning. Oh, we would take them in the winter, reinstall them in the spring. I think we'll have our phone number on them in case there are issues, but.
So Kyle Zick from Kyle Zick Landscape Architecture. It's a rendering of parklets, which was included in the submission. The designs or the footprint would be identical in the 3 locations. The furnishings might be different within that footprint, but that would be. We don't have that. It's a 7-foot by 40-foot parklet. It has canopy over the top, which is no higher than 10 feet. And otherwise, there's furnishings within here for people to spill out from adjacent retail or just use because it would be a public space. We're fortunate in each of the 3 locations that it's fairly new construction, so the curb reveal is consistent between around 6 inches. There's a furnishing zones with concrete pavers, and that has bike racks, light poles, and street lighting.
No, because you gave us the location, which is a parking spot, and we have no knowledge of what it's going to look like. So basically, in a nutshell, you are going to use city-owned parking spaces to put this stuff at your expense, Amy, and it's going to be programmed for outdoor fun space. And there's no commercial activity other than me just sitting over there and
Just public
chilling.
seating.
Public seating.
Yeah.
Are there any restaurants or anything immediately close by where I can take something from there and eat over here? And is that so are we extending the quasi outdoor cafe thought patterns out over here? And if I spill and do something, or if I get into a situation, how is all of that managed because of the fact that this is proximate to the restaurant?
Yeah, they'll be managed by Seaport Square Development Company. The one on Northern Ave is in front of Sweet Green and Luke's Lobsters. The one on Boston Wharf Road will be near Tikaway, Chipotle, that strip. And then the one on East Service Road, we actually don't have any tenants there yet. We'll be rolling those out probably the same time that the parklets roll out next summer. But they'll be managed by us, and it won't be like an extension of the restaurant seating. They'll just be public.
There will be no service to any of these parklets.
It's not stopping me from
No.
enjoying
Yes.
the amenities of the Sweet
Right.
Green salad
Yes.
bowl to sit over here,
Right.
which yeah, I know, but at least if we had a sidewalk cafe, thought we get some revenue out of that space. For parklets, zip revenue, or am I missing something over here?
I would have to check to see if we've been charging for parklets. I don't think we
Activate
have.
the space.
but-
We just open public seating.
So we're just taking it away from Three Park Cars to get to
Fun spaces.
Once you've done, talk a little bit about with Mr. President, the design keeps evolving. Can you talk a little bit about things you've learned from previous parklet installations and what you baked into this?
Well, I mean, I think in terms of the design, we've learned some things. I think the locations, I think, has been the key. You know, some locations in the initial pilot program, they were near restaurants that, you know, were floundering, and it didn't really keep them above water. When they have a really strong partner, they thrive. You know, so in Roslindale, in the Fenway, in Newbury Street, they've done really well. They've been successful, and you know, partners have taken on putting them out in the spring and taking them down in the fall. We haven't really had any issues in terms of their durability or maintenance. Some have been hit by cars and, you know, dented and that kind of thing, but that's, you know, the worst. And as far as their use, they've been fine in terms of being open to the public and used for all kinds of purposes.
And maybe that partner is you now, right?
Mhm.
That's where I'm
Yeah.
feeling very positive about this and hoping that this will sort of expand within that zone area.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, that's why we're starting with 3. I think as other parcels come online, the thought is that we could
Within the
expand it.
seaboard zone, that
Yeah.
whole area.
I would say with this design, we got to make sure that the sightlines still work, because this has a much more opaque side to it. I know that none of these are at intersections, but as going forward, just to make sure that we're seeing the crosswalks and the pedestrians.
How are you getting the lighting, the suspended lighting?
It's solar. There's solar panels on half of the top of it. Yep.
So there's no other wire that's going?
No, there's battery packs that are built into the walls of it. Yeah.
So just for structural process, administrative structural processes, this is still a specific repair.
Mhm.
There's a maintenance agreement with Amy, which we will encompass. So.
Yep.
Other questions or comments? Rob?
What's that?
Members of the public? All right. So you get 2 weeks upstairs.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Next item, Hancock Street at Pleasant Street in Dorchester, specific repairs on a petition by Winter Gold LLC.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Rebecca Lee. I'm from Mintz, and I represent the development team here. To my left is Greg Contente from Samuels and Associates, who's working with Winter Gold LLC, the project proponent. Brian Bizel, the traffic engineer from Howard Stein Hudson, and
Robert Messenger.
Sorry, from Howard Stein Hudson, who's the design engineer for the proposed intersection improvements. The Dot Block project was before you a couple of months ago for a series of PIC improvements around the project itself on Greenmount, Dorchester, Hancock, and Pleasant Street. This is the quote, other side of the Hancock-Pleasant Street intersection. It was the city's choice to make this a signalized intersection, not a roundabout, not a rotary. And so the 25% plans were reviewed by and commented upon by BTD. So what we're here to present to you is the quote, other side of Pleasant and Hancock Streets and the specific repairs that are going to be undertaken in connection with that. Is there any further background information on the
Just give me
project?
a tiny bit. What do we have at this triangular three-legged intersection today? What do we have?
It's a very large intersection.
Just trying to remember.
we have an existing.
I apologize for not having. Do we have a roundabout over there today?
No.
Then I'm mixing up things.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a situation that requires attention, and you're proposing the attention that is needed.
Yeah, it's a very large intersection now that we're going to tighten up and make a standard three-legged or four-legged intersection with our driveway as the fourth leg. making it much safer for pedestrians with shorter crossings, pedestrian signals, and much safer for drivers. Right now, it's almost like a roundabout where you make left turns though through the middle of it, so it's really it's just a non-standard condition that people don't always know how to travel through it.
Hancock Street still, I mean, it's a through street, so I'm just trying to be focusing on how Hancock Street functions within this mess.
Okay.
And let me see if I can, which of,
Closing it in, just to make it a more rational.
Just flip it back.
so on that, can you, because I can't see which is Hancock, just on that screen, sir, one of those things. Which is Hancock?
Hancock is here, right here, Pleasant Street.
So the through street goes into a 90-degree control situation?
Correct. The named street, yes, makes it's already a turn, and it'll be a 90-degree turn in the future.
Oh God! And then we wonder why Tremont Street does a dog leg. Oh, guys, there's a reason why streets may have been laid out in a certain way, and as much as you are trying to manage the situation, please ask yourself whether you are exasperating the situation from another perspective. Okay, so as long
You could not possibly get what's worse than what's there.
Can you walk us through the proposed changes?
Sure. So on the specific repair plan here, we'll start at the western intersection approach to Hancock Street. We're reconstructing the sidewalk on both sides with new granite curb, and we're also providing permeable paver furnishing zone. We also need to extend the driveways for the residents and new curb cuts as well.
And then just to double check on both the north and south sides, you have talked to the abutters, they know what's happening, they are supportive of this work.
We have, yeah, we've been doing about our outreach. Catherine O'Neill, who's here with us, we've had very positive feedback. Again, they're aware that it's an unusual intersection, so they're happy that it's getting fixed.
I think something which just helps us for the public hearing, just to sort of know that outreach has been done, that they're supportive of this, would be very helpful.
would you be receptive to putting some directional signage, so if I'm driving without Google Maps, that my Hancock Street is actually, I have to make a left turn, because you might be inclined to go
Right.
on the straight.
So they already, we didn't receive that comment, but we can. They're already making a left turn coming up that way, but now they'll be making a more severe right turn, so maybe we need signage that way as you're heading towards Dot Ave, so we can add that to the plans.
Also, in this stretch of the western approach, there is an existing streetlight that we retain, and also a hydrant that we retain. Moving on to the southeast approach, Hancock Street on the south side. Again, reconstruction of the concrete sidewalk, new granite curb, and permanent pavers in the furnishing zone. And we're also extending another residential driveway there, and a new curb cut, and we're also providing a catch basin for the rivers that we got for
And the two new lawns that are going to be added, that is going to be maintenance responsibility of the dot block, or, okay, I just want to double check. Okay, that's
Yes.
part of the LMI?
Yep, we've submitted an LMI to council to the PIC.
On the PIC plan is an inset there that shows the LMI area on the left side there.
Thank you.
Thank her. Thank the attorney. She does.
And on Pleasant Street, north approach, similar construction, new concrete curb and new sidewalk reconstruction with curb located in the furnishing zone. And another extension of existing driveway and new curb cut. At the intersection itself, we are obviously removing those medians, so we'll be relocating the streetlights there. New bump outs and also new pedestrian ramps and catch basins with guardrails.
Street lighting on those pieces? Great.
We received those comments in 25, and we're coordinating with them for the 75% that hasn't got in yet. We're basically, there's two street lights in the middle of the intersection. We're gonna move those to the outside is the expectation.
I think BTD Active Transportation has comments on the striping plans on the larger plan set.
Can you go back to the rendering?
Right, yeah, so if you could just meet with them prior to the public hearing, just to
Yes.
ensure that whatever changes they're asking for don't require an additional 6 inches or something, where we're setting these new curb lines.
Understood. So I will absolutely meet with them again and discuss, but the pavement marking shown on this rendering here is the intent of what they had asked for.
Yep, no, they asked me to state this morning,
Yep.
so.
Will do. We'll
yeah,
follow up.
Did you say you are putting a stoplight here, or did I miss it here?
Traffic signal.
Like you will put a traffic signal?
Yes.
Above ground mast arms or
Yes, mast arms.
Mast arms, yes. So it's, in addition to your street going that way, use the mast arms to give some direction as to which way the streets go. Okay,
Agreed.
use that arm
Yes.
for hanging signs.
I think that would work well. Yes.
Isn't the square that's cut out of the lower island?
Blue bikes, combination for a blue bike station.
So between now and when we're into construction, if the city decides that you don't want to put a blue bike station there and we
Separate
do-
comment I was asked to make today is, can we put a blue bike station there, so.
But here, what we wanted to just provide you is a butter feedback, which is there are certain abutters who don't want them. So if and to the extent that the city decides that in the next year, that it is not going to put a blue bike station there, then it probably makes more sense for us to fix the line of the green area.
Other questions or comments? Other things you want to cover on the specific repair plan?
Yeah, those are all specific repairs.
Abhi or Todd? Good. Members of the public? All right, we'll see you in 2 weeks upstairs, room 900.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Our next item, 301 Border Street, Utah Street, East Boston, pedestrian easement, specific repairs on a set of petitions by Border Development LLC.
I'm there.
Good to go?
Good afternoon. Thanks for your time today. My name is Caleb Manchester. I'm the project proponent for 301 Border Street in East Boston. We are building 64 condominiums at the intersection of Utah Street and Border Street across from the Umana School. We are here today to talk about some specific repair and a pedestrian easement. And Robert here from AZH will have some further commentary on it, unless there's some project specifics you need. Okay, thank you.
Start on the rendering here, just the orienting project. We're reviewing for Border Streets, Utah Street, it's on the left of the page. And it's at the intersection, there's no immediate adjacent infrastructure there. Across the street is a parking lot. And to the right of the page here is a community garden. To the rear of the site, on the east side is another, it's a 5-story apartment.
The Umana with the stairs going up through the community garden to the right. Is that right?
And this 6-story building. Yep. Moving on to specific repairs, there's 300 feet of specific repairs on Border Street. Reconstruction of the existing sidewalk. We're providing new curb cuts, new granite curbs where we are closing curb cuts. And we're removing and resetting the curb elsewhere. We're providing 6 street trees on Border Street. In total, the project will have 7 street trees, 1 on Utah as well. And in total, the project will have 13 bike racks along the frontage. And we do provide a minimum 5-foot pedestrian pathway with use of a pedestrian easement. Moving on to Utah Street, 1 street tree there, and the main building access, the driveway curb cut is on Utah Street, and it's 50-foot wide, new curb cut. Pedestrian easement varies in width, but we do achieve a 5-foot minimum of use of pedestrian easement from the property line to the base of the building.
The driveways for in-building parking and the passageway that is above it is for.
The passageway is not going to be used by the building, really. We have rights to it, but the vehicular ingress and egress is on Utah Street.
Can the passageway become a raised, like, does it need to be a street opening, or can this function like a driveway? You're building a ramp on either side of it.
There are other folks who have rights to that passageway to
Yeah,
park in the
yeah.
rear, so the answer is basically no.
Cool. accessible?
I actually asked that question. It looks like they have some grading challenges with a doorway that's kind of within the passageway, and it would just be pretty tough for them to bring that up and then bring it back down immediately to make it work. They've looked at it.
Want the tactile panels on those passageway?
I believe so.
And what's happening with the reciprocal ramp on the other side of Border Street? You show one as being compliant and replacing the tactile warning, but nothing for the other, the ramp on the receiving ramp on the other corner.
Grant, we can add, we just immediately put the rest of this.
Sorry.
Sure.
So what was your name? I'm being very...
Myself?
Yes, sir.
Caleb Manchester. Caleb Manchester?
Mr. Manchester?
Yes, sir.
How are you? You've got 68 units in a very exciting location.
64.
64, okay. I'm going to assume your project must be at least about 50 plus or minus. I don't know. We just made much improvements to Central Square, very close by over here. The school, there's a kindergarten through grade 8 school right opposite your property, right?
Correct.
Right, okay. So this construction is going to take some time. We need you to be as sensitive as possible to the kids coming and imagine that it's your little puppies that are
Very
going to
true.
come there. Plus, I don't know what may have been asked of you through the the Article 80 process, but give some consideration to making this thing, this area, a little bit safer for those kids that are going to the school. Thought with Amy, right? School zone flashing lights, whatever the heck that one needs to protect the most vulnerable of our generations. So if you can give considerations to looking after them ever so slightly as part of your infusion of equities into this neighborhood, we would be much appreciated.
Agreed, 100%. We do have we have an approved construction management plan, which has some pedestrian features to it, but the guys on site are very sensitive to it. We've met with the Omana School multiple times. We've had some conversations about doing some upgrades for them in addition to what we're required to do, and that's where we're at.
Because some people who are going to be occupying your building might actually want to go to that school. So if those little
Hope
kids
so.
need to cross at Border Street, interestingly has a few more cars than we were hoping for. And so we just need to manage that slow streets, calm.
Sure.
All of that.
Agreed, and appreciate the feedback.
Thank you, sir.
From a resilience perspective, are there things that we've adjusted to the plan of either the building or the public right-of-way, given climate ready East Boston?
We did submit a climate resiliency letter. Off the top of my head, I honestly don't know what was in there.
Other things you want to cover?
That's the limit of the specific repairs.
Other questions or comments? Todd Arby? Members of the public? All right, see you in 2 weeks upstairs.
Thank you very much.
on 900. Our next item, 25 Hammond Street, Chalmette Ave, Roxbury, granted location on a petition by Crown Castle Fiber.
Good morning, Commission members. Shelley Cullen with Axis Engineering Group, representing Crown Castle. And this is a petition that was a potential lead company, and we put out for other participants but did not get any reply. No, there was no interest in this. It's about, it's about 566 feet on Hammond Street and then turning the corner onto Chalmette Ave into an existing electric manhole. And this is a micro trench. It's proposed as a micro trench. And Karen, I actually have.
Maybe this is a micro trench or a full-blown cut.
This one's proposed as a micro trench. Yes, whenever possible. There's actually.
Just remind me once in a while that you are doing it, so this way I can feel a little bit better about the perpetuating chopping of our investments.
I will keep that in mind. The actually the portion, 53 feet. I think it's 53 feet on on Shawmut Ave is proposed as a traditional, so just that one portion.
It's very late in the day. Todd, what's the depth through these micro trenches get put in? Because now I have a secondary concerns about the infusion of micro trenches and our ability to pave the street on any given day.
We are trying to sort this out with
Okay.
Katie's group, what
Because
the right
when we
answer
first
is.
started, it was a couple of things at this rate. Now our paving program is going to be compromised. And Shelley, the day I go to pave this thing, I may rip your whole assets off, and that would be awkward.
We try to get it down at least
4
2
inches
inches.
or below?
Well, yeah, I mean, as deep as we can get it, at least 2, if not 4 or more.
I'm seeing some of the trench cuts, your micro trenches at a very, because it's too shallow.
Yeah.
Done.
Shelley, the handhold on Hammond and Westminster, that exists already?
No, that's a future handhole to a light pole.
You just looking at what it's doing or whether that can be put in the furnishing zone, whether it's microchips, it's not possible, but
I'm
see if we
sorry?
can move that into the furnishing zone rather than the other way.
Oh, the future one?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And the one at Wall Street and Shawmut Ave is not in the curb cut, is that right? There's not in the crosswalk?
Correct, that's in the street.
Okay. Other questions or comments?
Yeah, just another comment, Shelley. On this plan, you're crossing a lot of the drainage laterals, and just wanted to let you know, we actually don't have a lot of depths. We don't have any information on the depths of those.
Okay,
Just an FYI to watch out for them.
And then you said on the drain laterals?
Oh, yes, on the drain
Yeah.
laterals, yeah. Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions or comments? Todd or Avi?
All set.
Members of the public? All right.
Whoever's
See you in
left.
2 weeks on this item up on the 9th floor. The next item is 27 School Street, Washington Street, Boston proper, grant of location on a petition by Level 3.
They are not here, so we discuss.
Okay, again, Shelley Cullen with Access Engineering Group, and now representing Level 3. I know, it's confusing. This is another lead company project with no participants. This is a traditional trench, proposed as a traditional trench. It's about 740 feet. And down School Street and over Washington Street.
Washington Street, that is the downtown crossing Washington Street.
Yeah, this is actually, we're aware that this is the Orange Line, so we actually have to get a license from the MBTA. We've got all that.
2 of 3, you are, I just don't recall. Yes. From Water Street, you are going more than a couple of feet down Washington Street. Which part of Washington Street is this? The next one.
It's here.
It's Spring Lane.
It's here, downtown crossing.
It's in the area which is causing me to.
It's not the
And they are planning on a good old cut. It's going to have some restoration work that may cost. And you're saying why this is to connect to clients?
This is a building, right? Connection, not, this is.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Shelley, is there no other location where you can get this service without digging half of Washington Street? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to over-exaggerate.
No, and again, the last thing in the world they would want to do is dig in this location because of the Orange Line as well. So they checked out other options.
Policy.
So
it's cheaper to cut our streets than do anything.
I'm sure you looked at it, but rather than going down School and down Washington, did you look at City Hall Alley?
Honestly, I'm not sure.
Can you just double check that?
Yeah.
Because that would be, that would have, I think, it'd be less disruptive, and I think you might not have to, it might just be easier.
Yeah. I don't know how the heck we can support for one client.
And Chris, can you tell me where that goes?
It's the rear of the
Shelley, get your,
Behind the other side of the building.
If you could impress upon those wonderful people that give you guidance on how to cut our streets in location, route guidance, tell them that we in the city have a really anxious moment over here and try and see whether there's another way of finding it. Because I think somewhere along the line, folks are making an economic decision as to the penalty in cutting our streets, restoration fees, versus you are finding other ways to get to from point A to B.
Understand
And it will be
completely.
really, really awkward if we are forced to raise our fees to compensate, to motivate you all to find another way to get from point A to B.
I understand.
Okay?
All right. Any other questions or comments? Dr. Rabi? Members of the public? All right, see you in 2 weeks upstairs, room 900.
Oh, upstairs?
Upstairs, room 900.
Okay, great, thanks.
All righty. Our next item, W Square, Roxbury, square name change on a petition by the Nubian Square Coalition. What, please?
This is my first time here, Chief.
First of all, my apologies that you guys were, was it
Very
not
long.
the longest PIC meeting? If you want to
The,
be first on the public hearing. or
I actually
get
kind of
first.
chuckled because I normally walk in the hallway and you guys are like pretty quick over here. Mr. Chairman, thank you guys so much, members of the commission. My name is Jerome Smith. I'm Mayor Walsh's Chief of Civic Engagement and Director of Neighborhood Services. I come here today because I'm at a new business. My office, as I said in a memo to you guys on October 24th, has been working with the Nubian Square Coalition, which happily I didn't know today, but some of the members from the coalition today are here, along with Siddiqui Cambone, who is the chair of the commission. My office, the mayor's office, and the Nubian Square Coalition has been working on a non-binding advisory opinion question that was recently on the ballot for the past election. The residents that are here today have been working and reaching out to the Roxbury residents, of which we provided you the wards and precincts at which they have been working on, to talk to the residents about the possible name change from Dudley Square to Nubian Square. I had known in my conversations with the commission that this was kind of different. It's something that, street changes, there's a very formulaic process by which you change streets, but whole shopping districts and stuff, we thought about how we can do this, and the residents came together and with the mayor thought about this opinion question to kind of help guide you guys in your processes as the commission going forward. I'm happy to let you guys know that the unofficial results as of November 13th is a yes vote of 1,986 residents in support of the name change and a no vote of 957 residents of Roxbury residents. I say unofficial because, as you're aware, there's a recount this weekend, so we technically can't say it's official until that occurs. We do not anticipate, while we're looking at 7 or 8 votes for a city council race, we do not anticipate large changes in the in the vote totals for this question. We feel pretty secure that overwhelmingly the residents that chose to vote on this question voted in support. So I want to thank you guys for your opportunity to working with your staff, helping the residents. This was a resident-driven effort that the mayor joined with them to help figure out, and I just want to thank you guys and thank them as we move this forward, and I'm happy to take any questions you guys may have.
First of all, I commend the group on your efforts, and just to reiterate, the wards and precincts that we were focused on supported overwhelmingly for this, and sort of the unofficial tally at this point.
Yep.
That will likely be official by the time we have our public hearing on the 19th of December.
I would hope so.
Other questions or comments?
And Todd, the mechanics of the name changes, it's just a record-keeping, bookkeeping process, right?
Yeah,
Administratively.
we'll update the street book, we'll notify, those that need to be notified.
The residents are happy because with the official updating of the street book and the things that we're doing behind the scenes is helping them as they now start their conversations with the MBTA about them changing all their subway stations, about working with the mayor and the Main Streets District about changing all the signage. So we're actively working on all things that the commission generally doesn't get involved in, but the residents just feel as though that this change helps them as they try to leverage it for some of the other things.
Will the post office